Well, if it isn't the Xbox 2 podcast live on a Friday afternoon, 1 hour later than normal, and that's not my fault. That is Jez's fault, but we're here. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a great day.
Blaming me.
Well, I mean, gotta let the people know. It wasn't my fault we started late. I was ready to roll.
Technically, if we're speaking technically, it's daylight saving time's fault.
True, we are an hour closer to one another because Europe hasn't moved their clocks forward. So,
but they will from this weekend.
Okay, so yeah, we'll probably end up being. I'll just have to remind Jez next week that, hey, by the way, the regular time should be, because you'll be like coming in late or coming in early or whatever. But what's going on? For those that don't know, I'm Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. And we have Jez Corden, executive editor of Windows Central, here with us. And this is the Xbox 2 podcast. Right?
Hello, everybody. I'm the man with the 150,000 game score. just crossed 150,000 game score, bro. How do you feel? Jealous?
I mean...
Oh, wait, you got a million. Yeah, but the difference between us is I only play real games. You play like Barbie.
Here we go. Here we go.
You played Barbie. You cheated to get that 100 million game score, whatever
I
it is.
certainly did not. So...
Everyone in the chat, tell us what your game score is. Do you remember there was like a period where like in the discourse, people were like, oh, you can't comment on Xbox unless you've got 500,000 game score. Do you remember that a few years ago?
No.
There was this whole thing. I don't know.
I don't remember that.
Some I think content creator trolls who are no longer around said that back in the day, fun times. But yeah, everyone's dropping there. A lot of 300,000, 150,000. Well, a lot of people in the hundreds of thousands. Not many people with a million rand. So you are special. You are special.
No. Ain't nothing special about it. There's plenty of
nothing
people
special
that have
about grinding Barbie's Horse Adventure.
Well, I mean, I only did that a few times, but I've always said gamer score. I've always said gamer score doesn't matter. It only matters to the person that gets it if they like it or not. And
yeah, it's
the gamer score system has been destroyed anyways. Like with all the games, all the crap that releases on the storefront designed specifically to get you gamer score super fast. Like the system's dead.
It's so strange that Microsoft allows that.
Well, what are they gonna do? They let anybody publish their games on their ID at Xbox, and some of these developers are just gonna be like, we know there are going to be some people in the community that buy these games for easy platinums on the PlayStation side of things or easy 1,000, and they do. And they keep on updating them for their guidelines to get all the way up to 5,000. I mean, I just did it as like a lark. There's these games called like Beautiful Sakurai, which are like visual novels. You could like...
I saw those.
You download them, and then you set it up to like skip the dialogue and as fast as it can or whatever, and it's like the game's over in a minute, and you have all 1,000 gamer scored in like less than a minute.
Really?
That's how these things are now.
That's hilarious.
It's how they are. Everything's 1,000 points. They can get up to 5,000, so you could go crazy. It just ruined.
I can make loads of money by making. I could make a Rand visual novel with 1,000 gamer score.
You could. Yeah.
And sell it for like what, $5?
I mean, I don't know how many people would buy it. I don't know how big the community is anymore, but if that's what people do on PlayStation, and that's what some of the publishers do on Xbox. And it's not like any of those games are good. They're literally just designed to get you achievements super quick. It's kind of sad. It's very
strange.
Which is I am thankful I no longer do any of that. I was doing it back when it was like,
cool.
Well, no, it was just like none of that stuff really existed. So if you wanted to, you'd have to play everything plus complete everything. And even if there was a game that was easy, like on the arcade, it was only 200 gamer score or 400. It wasn't like it is now, but. Anyways, that's a little sidebar. Discord had an update, a visual refresh, and so I'm always curious to see if any of the sound stuff changed. So hopefully we sound good, and I think nobody's mentioned it, so I'm assuming it's fine, or at least not noticeable to anybody. Because you do sound softer to me a little bit, and I was trying to fix that.
Me?
Well, to me, but I think you're probably as loud as you normally are. hate it when Discord makes these changes. Did you? I don't know. Did you even notice the visual refresh? Because when I first saw it, I'm like, oh man, this is ugly. Maybe it's because I was so
Yeah,
used to how it used to look. So
it looks like Slack. If you've ever used
no,
Slack, the work
I've never
productivity
used
thing.
Slack. So
Yeah, it's all the like lines around everything makes it look a little bit like Slack to me. I don't know why they bothered changing it because I feel like it doesn't really look any better. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe it's been like rebuilt from the ground up or
I don't
something. I
know. A
don't
lot
know.
of these companies always seem to me sometimes that they'll make changes, visual changes, just simply because it's just like it's looked the same for too long now. It's looked the same for 3 years. We need to make it seem like we're doing something, so change it visually. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's what I
On that
see.
note,
That's what I
time
see.
for a rebrand of the podcast.
Oh, a rebrand, huh?
Well, nah, it's just funny because like sometimes I like to rebrand the podcast because it's just like I'm bored of this design now. But I
Mm,
suppose it's different when it's like there's millions and millions of people using and expecting the design to be a certain way compared to like a podcast logo.
yeah, yes,
I don't know.
that is true.
Yeah.
So, how was your week? Was anything interesting happening?
Yeah, week was fruitful and productive, I
Yeah.
guess. Just the same old working, working, working. Not a huge amount of interesting big news going on at the moment. We had the Project Kennen stuff last week, which, was something at least. But I think people are eager for something juicier at the moment. I kind of
Mm.
feel like we're getting to that point now where people are really eager to know what next gen looks like,
Well, still a
what
little early
it's.
for that though.
Yeah, still a little early.
I
We're
don't know.
expecting 20.
There's still some people out there believing that next gen's going to be revealed this year, and then all that stuff's going to come out in 2026, according to their sources. Which
Who said that?
I don't know. I've just seen people say that like 2026
Mm.
is when it's happening.
Nah, I don't
I
think so.
really doubt that, sir. I really doubt it. 2027 is the
Yeah.
earliest. Just like Cyberpunk and Intergalactic as well. I don't know if you saw
Yeah,
what Jason Schreier said. Basically, like some of those
Jason
games
Schreier
are
said
the earliest is 2027.
earliest.
Yeah,
If as long as there's not another pandemic or something like that, right?
or something like that. And some of these games tend to like. I would imagine The Witcher probably get delayed. How many times did Cyberpunk get delayed from its original release date?
Oh, the original Witcher got delayed like 3 times, I think. Um, Something like that. But yeah, they're big games and there's so much to play. I've said this before. Delay all you want, just make it good when it actually ships. There are games that get delayed that end up not being good. That's like the worst of both worlds, right? But if
Yeah,
it's delayed and it's eventually good, then I'm cool with it. But yeah, 2027 seems like likely, I think. But we are
Artemis.
coming up to. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say Artemis has a question for you, which I think we talked about last week. But he says, speaking of news, Jez, when is the partner direct? Because
Yeah, so
normally, or at least last year, there was Microsoft does a partner direct in the spring and one in the fall. Usually, the one in the fall is in October, and they've done a partner direct in March. I think maybe once, possibly twice, if I'm not mistaken.
mm,
And well, obviously, we're March 28th, so March is almost over. So
yeah.
obviously, there was no partner direct. Do you have any news about if they're actually going to be doing one between now and Xbox Game Showcase, or
I have nothing on my end. I mean, I can try and dig for it. I mean, it's kind of weird, like date. I
Mm.
didn't even. Can you? It's April already. I feel like it was Christmas 5 minutes ago, and the January direct, and now we're all pushing all the way into April already. And then before we know it, blink, and then it's going to be the June showcase. So I haven't heard anything about a partner direct. I think there was some expectations we might see one because there were some leakers who said things like this game's coming to Game Pass on this day, and people sort of linked it to potentially there being a partner direct or something like that. I don't know. I never heard anything about a partner direct, but like you said, it happened in the past, so logic would dictate that it would happen again. I haven't heard anything, but I could do some digging. That's what I mean. Like people are sort of I think we're kind of in this weird holding pattern right now, where it's like that kind of quiet before the storm. Sort of as we get into April, things often start leaking ahead of the June showcase. If you know, looking back through history, that's when we often start getting leaks or hints or teases about what we might see at the June showcase, which is really for Xbox fans, I suppose, the big E3 blowout. But there's this weird cloud over everything, with the strategy, what are they doing, what's going on with Xbox hardware sales, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
there's all that discourse to cut through.
What's going on
And
with your
Xbox has just been quiet.
with your
Xbox
Atomfall
has been super
footage,
quiet.
bro? Jeez.
Is it bugged?
I mean,
Is it glitching out?
yeah, it glitches out fairly often. I'm gonna have to change it.
Ugh,
Man,
sorry,
what's
man.
up? What's up with your capture card?
I don't know. Sometimes it does that now. Just glitches out. And like it looked fine on the feed. Sorry,
Well,
dude.
unless
Sorry,
people,
everyone.
I don't know, unless people aren't noticing it, but I notice it in OBS.
Nah, I think it probably is glitching out. Um, if you want to swap it out, that's fine. I uh, I did watch it back at the start, and it seemed all right, but maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah, people have seen the glitches. All right, well, I'll just change it to this then. Hold on.
I mean, the glitches seem to clear up sometimes.
I'll change it to something else.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need a new capture card. Um, People say not a big deal.
All right. Well, I'll leave it, I guess.
But I just so everyone knows, the glitches are my capture card, not the game. So don't blame the game for the weird visuals. The visuals are really crisp in Atomfall, and we'll talk a little bit more about how it plays in a minute. But yeah, you had a good week, Rand. Has everyone in chat? Have you guys had a good week?
Yeah.
What's your
I
week
mean,
been like, Rand?
I ended up meeting Colt Eastwood on Saturday last week, or yeah,
Oh,
last week at
nice.
this point. Ended
Is
up
that Colt calling now on the phone?
no, that's definitely not. Met Colt, met Holly as well because they were staying at Holly's house. Met Colt's wife, so we chilled.
She's awesome. I met her as well.
Yeah. They ordered some Chicago deep dish pizza, which I
I
was
want to try
like,
that.
I don't like deep dish pizza. Plus, I'm not like eating pizza for the diet. So it's funny because Colt ended up cooking up a steak for me, so I got to eat some steak, and we just chilled and talked about stuff, and it was really cool to get to meet him and get to meet Holly and his wife and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. That was on Saturday, and then yeah, I've just been playing a game I can't talk about yet. Can't talk about it just yet.
We'll talk about it next week, though, maybe.
Probably, maybe, potentially. But other than that, let's do some housekeeping and then we'll get into everything. So, welcome to the Xbox 2 podcast, everybody. Thank you very much. If you guys do us a big favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, let everybody know on social media that we are live. Share it out. We'd greatly appreciate that. And this episode, I believe, is sponsored by Surfshark once again, is it not, Jez?
That is indeed true. Thanks to our lovely sponsor over at Surfshark VPN, who have graciously partnered with us for Xbox 2 podcast. So, have you ever tried to watch a movie, catch up on a series, or explore new content only to find that it's unavailable in your region? What if I told you, Rand, that there's an affordable way to break through those geographical barriers and access the content you love no matter where you are? That's where Surfshark VPN comes in. So, like, for example, Rand, unfortunately, cannot watch WWE SmackDown on Netflix in America because he doesn't have access to it in America. But in Europe, we have access to SmackDown without any ads either. So, the best way to do it would be to drop in on Surfshark VPN, set your location to the United Kingdom, and then surf over to the UK and watch Netflix like that. Surfshark VPN is like your personal passport through the internet. Lets you bypass those annoying geo-blocks and access streaming libraries from all over the globe. Want to watch US exclusives, dive into UK dramas, or stream anime directly from Japan? With Surfshark, it's all just a click away. You can enjoy unlimited entertainment without having to worry about any of those pesky restrictions. But here's the thing, Rand. Surfshark isn't just about unlocking content. It can also make sure your online presence stays safe and secure. Every time you connect, your data is encrypted, your browsing is protected, and prying eyes, whether they're hackers, advertisers, or even your internet service provider, are kept completely out of your business. It's like having a bodyguard for your digital life. Surfshark VPN is based in the Netherlands using RAM-based servers, also without data retention laws, meaning no logs, no activity to sell to third parties, keeping your data fully private. Now, let's talk value. We've got an exclusive deal just for Xbox 2 podcast listeners. If you click the link in the description, you'll get a massive 86% off a 2-year plan, plus a few extra months completely for free. That's 2 full years of unlimited streaming, airtight security, total online freedom, all for a fraction of the regular asking price. So don't wait. Click the link in the description and take control of your online experience with Surfshark VPN. Whether it's streaming, security, or both, Surfshark has you covered. So yeah, that's Surfshark. Thank you to them so much for sponsoring the show. It's a really great VPN. I've switched over fully from Nord, and I just use it in the browser, slap the extension into Microsoft Edge, and it just works. There's also apps for every device you can imagine. You can cover your entire computer with a VPN, cover your entire phone with a VPN, or if you've got a compatible router, you can even use something like WireGuard to make your entire internet connection covered via the VPN. So devices like your Netflix account on your TV and stuff like that, even they can use the VPN. So that's Surfshark VPN, 86% off in the description, also in the comments, and yeah. Thanks to them.
I mean, if you had it right now, you could be watching SmackDown live on Netflix. If you're in the U.S., which you'd have to wait till 7 o'clock tonight, so you have to wait for a few hours. But all you would have to do is just activate your Surfshark VPN, and you could watch it on Netflix right now, live as it's airing. That's one of the many uses of Surfshark, and we thank them for sponsoring the video and giving this great deal to the listeners. So. But that's not all. We have our wonderful Patreon members at patreon.com/XB2, where you get early access to the XB2 plus one podcast we do, which we did one with Tom Warren, exclusive access to Xbox 2 Ultimate, which we're probably doing next week or the week after. It depends on our schedules. Well, mostly depends on Jez's schedule, but if we're free, we'll be able to do one. Yeah. Question and answer thread is up. If anybody wants to drop a question, we'll get that answered at the end of the show. And we got some shout-outs here for the Xbox 2 MVPs. We got Ethan Linhairs, VA, Resin Force, iMike Zero, Tier, Shrapnel, Inner Machine, Just James 93, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, 09 C Mine, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trey, Laser Wolf, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Foreign Object, RS Donks, Randall Thor 19, me, Silas, James Moore, Bilbo Teabaggins, that's a good name, K-Trox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, Sean Kramer, Peter Broking, Asa T. and Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Pat Rock, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Torpy, Briggs Country, Prof. JJJ, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys for continuing to support me and Jez on the podcast we've been doing now for almost 8 years. Because, Jez,
that's wild. We're
coming up on an 8-year anniversary next month, really. Because we started the show April of 2017. And wouldn't you know it, it's almost April of 2025. Oh, man. 8 years have gone by. Honestly, when we started the show, I didn't know if it was going to last. I mean, when you start something like this, it's like, yeah, how long are we going to do this? 8 years? It's almost been a decade of Xbox 2. Well, 2 more years, but
that's crazy.
It really, I don't know. Let me ask you, does it feel like it's been forever, or does it feel like no time at all has passed?
Well, it's really crazy because this past March was my 10-year anniversary of Windows Central. It doesn't feel like 10 years. I don't feel any different. it's really strange. Like time has become this weird abstract concept to me. I don't know. But I've fully enjoyed my 8 years, bro. And I hope we do another 8 years.
I mean, it'd be
following this
crazy.
one.
Another. Could you imagine 8 years? That'd be put it at 2033. Maybe you finally be just sitting down to play Fallout 5 for the first time in 8 years.
Yeah, or Minecraft 2. Paris Lillian chat says 8 years. Those are rocky numbers. Yeah, Paris has been rocking Gamer Tag Radio for 38 years at this point. That's crazy, bro.
We got Xbox Era saying 4 years with Nick feels like 10 lifetimes worth. Sadly, I know what you mean. I did one podcast with Nick, and I felt like I aged a month during that because we ended up doing like a 5-hour show.
Podcast.
That was a very long podcast. And
39 years. Damn.
Yeah. So it's like,
yeah.
Oh my lord. But yeah, 8 years. I think we started in April because that was when they revealed, Digital Foundry revealed the Xbox One X. And because we had been talking on Skype beforehand. This little like history of the Xbox 2. And I think we've talked about it before, but there's always new people discovering the show. And in fact, someone earlier in the show was like, Rand, I had no idea what your name meant until I saw a poll of like fantasy characters. And I realized it was you. And I'm like, I don't know how many times I've explained my name about how I got it and where it's from and whatever, but there's always somebody who's just like listening for the first time that has no idea.
Oh, I have no idea, and I've been here for 8 years.
Whatever, But yeah, me and Jez, I think we met at E3 2016, and I think I remember like seeing you in the line.
I don't remember how we met.
No, you were in a line. I was with Southbound and Tim Dog. And you know what it was? It was E3. We were going to the event after Xbox's E3 at the Galen Center.
Yeah.
And because the Xbox after the showcase, after the E3 show, they like basically put on I'm not going to call it a meet and greet, but it was basically an area for games journals and stuff to kind of walk around and play games and talk to Xbox people or whatever. Like, I remember there being a line and we getting in there, and I remember seeing like, oh, that's just Corden in line, and I think we cut in line to be with you. So that's how I met Jez. He was randomly in line, and I even think one of the other shows after E3, like one of the special parties, like we met again in the line. And we kept
good times, man.
Yeah, we kept on talking, and then we would talk in Skype about stuff. And then I remember one of us said, "Man, these conversations are really good. Just too bad nobody's ever going to hear them." And I'm like, "Let's just start a podcast." And lo and behold,
let's just start a podcast.
The Xbox 2 began.
It's kind of a meme that like men reach a certain age and then just decide to start a podcast.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of crazy.
I don't know. It's crazy how we got here, but hopefully we've got a few more years of mileage in the tank. I mean, we've got to evolve as Xbox evolves.
What are we gonna change our name? Change our name to the PC2?
I don't think we're quite at that point yet, but Xbox has changed, and some of the audience has moved on, but there's also a new audience coming in, and people are curious about Xbox, and some are unhappy with Xbox and they've moved on, but
some people unhappy with Xbox haven't moved on though. They're still like rattling the cage walls and tweeting all the time about it and stuff. Instead of like moving on, they're just remembering the good old days back when they were the college quarterback or the high school football champion, talking about the good old days back in 2006, with Peter Moore and all those great games, and being like, why can't it be like that 20 years later? Shit changes.
Yeah, stuff changes, but hopefully we'll stick around for the next years and stick around with us. Manny in chat says, no cameras since 2016.
That's right.
He's got a point, Rand.
That's right.
We'll get on camera someday. I mean, you look really, really good in the pictures, Rand.
Yeah.
You look really good.
You like the beard? People were saying like I was competing with you for best beard.
Rand, you're looking good, man. Looking good. I still got my Manscaped trimmers. I need to have a go at my beard at some point, but yeah, I don't know. We'll keep rocking as long as you guys want to rock with us and cover some gaming news, even if it's not Xbox related necessarily. But we'll
Yeah.
stick around as long as humanly possible.
So I figured, I mean, I gave my basically my full thoughts on Assassin's Creed last week. I think I'd played it at that point when we talked about it for 45 hours, almost 50. I finished it, rolled credits, got 1,000 gamer score in it, did most of everything. There was some side missions I ended up not doing. It's kind of stupid ones, but I enjoyed my time with Assassin's Creed Shadows. It was kind of some points there was like an up and down thing with that game, and then it sort of like more or less ended on the higher part of the wave. You have the valleys and the troughs, right? Because I'd be like, oh man, this is great, really enjoying the combat. And then it'd be like, well, it's just kind of like riding from one thing to another. But it's like, oh, I got Yasuke, and Yasuke is a tank, and he's good. And it was like, Yasuke's kind of getting a little boring because he can only do one thing. And then it was like, oh, back up, and like, oh, I unlocked more abilities, and the story's kind of, getting a lot better. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I played it for 60 hours. I quite enjoyed my time with it. I ended up, I think I would give it an 8 because I was struggling between like a 7.5 and an 8, but the 8's about probably where I landed at. And I think mostly because I really enjoyed the stealth of the game. Now I ended up being the character I most wanted to play as a lot of the times, outside of like some of the things that kind of require you to play as Yasuke. And I think Yasuke he's a pretty good character in his own right. He has a very interesting story, and his gameplay is fun in batches. Like, he's not a character I'd want to play as the entire time, but there is a bit of fun when you're playing as Naue and you're doing the stealth stuff, and you do that for a little bit, and then you switch to Yasuke, and it's like, instead of trying to stealth around stuff, you just break down the walls of the castle, and you're like, I'm here, come try to kill me, motherfuckers. You know what I mean? And then you're just fighting like 20 people, and you're just absolutely murdering fools and cutting their heads off. Like, that dichotomy is really cool. Like when you play for a certain amount of time as one versus the other, and it's like, oh man, that extreme works pretty well. So I also did see that they announced 3 million players most recently. Second highest day one revenue for an Assassin's Creed game ever. I think only behind Valhalla, which was a cross-gen game. Was also a launch title for next gen at the time in 2020. Also during the pandemic, which, as we know, boosted game sales. I think they said it was also like the biggest Ubisoft launch in PlayStation Digital Store history. And it had something like 40 million hours played or whatever. And then it had the epic ratio of Musk and Grums, which is just...
That was funny.
Cherry on the top, I suppose. 55 million views, which is kind of just like, hopefully that's... I sat there and I wondered, because I was thinking to myself, now this is a giant corporation. Did that person have to go get like approval from whoever his boss is? Because I'm thinking of like Stein and the things like he would post. Was that have to like run up the chain? Like, hey, this is a response, and I want to say this, but you have to go... Did he have to go all the way up to Yiz Gemo and be like, hey, Yves...
And approval.
I know that like you're about to make a new company, but I want to tweet this out. Can I do it? Like, what do you think? Did he have to get company approval for that?
I think he probably did.
Yeah, he probably did, huh? And they're just like, do it.
Microsoft has to... I think I don't know if it's certain, but at least I know with Microsoft, Microsoft being my B, something like that, Stein, etc., would have to get like the head of PR to sign off on it.
Head of PR, maybe like head of legal, or someone in legal, maybe.
Yeah, like I want to say that. Yeah, probably they did have to sign off on it, but it was it was a great marketing beat. Like every major, we didn't cover it because we don't really cover things like that. But every major gaming site covered it, which is
Mm.
great marketing, great viral marketing for Assassin's Creed, and it's also sort of punching back at the politicization of some aspects of the game. So um, I'm gonna try it out eventually, I think. But
You
part of
said
me
you
just wants
downloaded
to.
it and
Yeah, I did.
because of it.
I have downloaded it. I have
Mm.
downloaded it. I was just trolling then. I'd already downloaded it. But I am probably gonna give it a go at some point. I kind of want to play Valhalla as well. I haven't played Valhalla, and I kind of feel like, should I play that first? Because it's the one everyone's gonna compare it
Nah,
to. I don't know. But
I think I think if you played Valhalla, you wouldn't want to play Shadows because these are
that's too
beefy games with
similar.
a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, the new
Mm.
Assassin's Creeds are all similar, pretty much. And I think Valhalla is a lot of the words used to describe Valhalla is bloated. Like Assassin's Creed Shadows isn't bloated. I do think the world is maybe bigger than it really needs to be. I think it should have been compressed down a bit, but I didn't feel that I didn't feel like the content in the game was bloated, but that was what a lot of the criticisms for Valhalla was.
Mm.
And honestly, I think the setting in Japan is a more interesting aesthetic than like the Norse Viking era. I mean, even when you look at like the newer Assassin's Creed, like ancient Egypt sounds really cool, like because you got the pyramids and all that sort of stuff. Ancient Greece was a really cool setting, and that's still my
I
favorite
like Norse
of the.
stuff.
Well, maybe if I
It's my
mean, you got the
people.
beard, yeah, it's your people, so maybe you would enjoy that more. But
Probably your
I think
people as
that
well.
no, my people are from Ireland, so well, I
Oh,
guess maybe. Um,
you're a Celtic.
so
I'm half, according to DNA. I'm half Celtic, half Norse. But yeah, I don't know. I downloaded it after your description of it last week because it did sound compelling. But there was another game I've been playing this week
yeah,
instead.
you said you've been playing Atomfall, which is the footage that is being displayed, and don't worry about the glitches. Don't that isn't the game. That's just Jez's poor game capture
Card.
device, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the cable. I don't know if my capture card's been playing up like this for a while actually. But anyways, yeah, the game doesn't glitch out like that. It's a capture card footage, so try to ignore that aspect of it. But um. I should probably show that footage to Elgato and see what they say about it, if they can tell me how to fix it or something. But Handful really surprised me, actually. And I downloaded it because it's sort of like got a unique North England setting, which almost no games follow that saying. The only one I could think of off the top of my head was Forza Horizon 4, ironically. So it's like the British countryside, but it follows. A lot of people were like, "Oh, is this Rebellion? Is this Rebellion's Fallout?" Because Rebellion obviously makes Sniper Elite series, branching out a little bit here with Atomfall. A lot of people were looking at this from the trailers and the sort of the 19, I think is it the 1950s the game's set in, something like that. So like they were looking at it and automatically assuming Fallout, but this is actually more like Rebellion's
Is it more like?
Stalker.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen people I've talked to have played it says it's more in line with Stalker
Yeah,
than Fallout.
it's way more like Stalker, a little bit Far Cry maybe, but it does seem to follow the Stalker traditions a bit more, where you have to sort of work out where you're gonna go, scavenge a lot, while navigating a sort of anarchistic kind of anomalous sort of sci-fi world. So yeah, it has that going for it, and the exploration is fantastic. So they really handled that really well. Like when you're traveling around the map, the character draws little notes on the map, which sort of add a sort of, I don't know, a sort of, it adds to the exploration, that it's not just you sort of boringly
Are
following.
you trying to compare this to Assassin's Creed, where stuff just gets added to your map,
Yeah, I'll just end like the
so like Atomfall's more like an adventure. Like you're discovering this and then handwriting onto your map instead of it being like
yeah,
just
kind of
automatically
more.
put there.
Yeah. It's along more like those lines, which obviously makes the exploration a lot more compelling, I think. And I think more and more games are going in this route where they're kind of like, okay, well, rather than make everything too convenient, we're going to let people discover things for themselves. And Atomfall really leans into that, I think, really, really well. So, like, every sort of location that you could go to, you can see on the map. And it seems like a fairly large, fairly dense map. It's like, oh, there's a little house here. Maybe there'll be a note there that'll give you a hint about a cache, which has some, unique weapon in it or some ammunition, because getting ammunition is not super easy, at least not at the start of the game that I've experienced. You're also crafting things and scavenging and just trying to survive. And the main character has no idea why he's there. So you're kind of learning the setting along with the main character through news clippings. He's lost his memories, like what the hell's going on? Some kind of nuclear power plant, nuclear experiment gone wrong in the north of England, and the whole sort of valley is now quarantined. And you have to figure out why, and then presumably get your ass out of there. So a lot of crazed bandits roaming around, a lot of people who've lost their minds, people are hearing voices. There seems to be like zombies and radioactive things popping off all over the place. So I've only played it for an hour and a half or so far, but it seems really, really cool. And if you are like into games like Stalker or Fallout or Far Cry to some degree, because I don't think it's quite as brutally hard as Stalker can be sometimes. I kind of feel like they've tried to balance accessibility with the sort of difficulty those games are kind of known for to some degree. So I don't feel like it was brutally as difficult as some of the games in this genre try to be. But it does have difficulty settings. I was playing on the recommended setting, which is sort of like I think they call it survivor mode. The UI like fades away as well, which gives you this really immersive visual landscape too. Like the UI only comes up when you actually need it, which is great, and I hope more games do that over time. Um, but yeah, I really rate this game, and I'm looking forward to playing it a bit more. But that's me for what I played this week. Other than a bit of Heroes of the Storm, which came to Game Pass finally.
Yeah, they did announce some Game Pass perks for a couple more PC centric stuff, like Smite 2, Heroes of the Storm, I think was one of them.
Yeah,
So do you have any more information on that? Like like
I mean,
the
we kind of
finals.
heard. Yeah, the finals
It
came
was like
too.
the free to play games, which honestly they probably need to do more of,
Yeah, it's something
considering
they've been
they're
criticized for
yeah
because a lot of people like the value of Game Pass for a lot of people just isn't there because it's like, well, I only really play these service games, especially like younger cohorts. It's like, where's the value for, someone who's Gen Z or whatever? Maybe they only play Fortnite and Genshin or something like that. So I think Microsoft is exploring these free to play partnerships a little bit more. And it's something that I've criticized them for, and I think, other people have criticized them for in editorial and stuff like that, right? And it does seem a bit like they've taken some of that feedback on board and now they're starting to deliver on non-premium games perks for that stuff. Heroes of the Storm is a no-brainer because Microsoft literally owns a property, and they've already got League of Legends characters in there as part of the deal with Riot Games. So it only makes sense that their own game should have the same perk, right?
yeah.
Where it's like if you subscribe to Game Pass, you get all the billions of heroes that are in Heroes of the Storm without having to grind for them or pay for them or wait for them to go on the free rotation, right? Um, and then there was other ones for Naraka Blade Point. Is it? I can never
Mm-hmm.
remember if it's Naraka Blade Point or Nakara Blade Point. So I'm sorry to people who played that and I'm pronouncing it wrong either way. But so there was a bunch of perks for that too, and then there was the finals, which looked for a little while like it could be the next big thing, but
I
I
think
think it has
it's
its audience, but it's not quite as didn't quite become the next PUBG, unlike
well.
Sea
I
of
mean,
Thieves, right?
yeah. I mean, it's kind of tough to become the next PUBG, which is still doing incredibly well.
Yeah, it's crazy how well PUBG's been doing like since it came out, it's not quite the hype. We don't hear about it anymore, but it's still got so many players concurrently, just happily trucking along, grinding away. While everyone sort of thinks of Fortnite, it's like PUBG is still doing really well for itself. So, um, there was that aspect. of it, and obviously with Heroes of the Storm coming back, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this another go. And there's a lot of Heroes of the Storm players are kind of hoping this gives it a new lease of life. You know, Heroes of the Storm being a MOBA, it's Blizzard's MOBA, similar to League of Legends and so on. It's more casual than League of Legends, more simple, and I think that's what cost it the hardcore user base, because they were like, we want to try and make something that's a little bit more accessible, but it's still not accessible enough for like a truly casualized audience like Pokemon Unite maybe is. So it ended up being, I don't know, didn't appeal to enough people, I guess. But it started getting updates again recently, so I don't know. Some people are hoping that maybe they'll start adding heroes again. And maybe with Game Pass, it'll discover a whole new audience. And, you know, if what we're going to talk about later, about Steam and PC games coming to the next Xbox, maybe it finds a whole new audience through that too. But, yeah, that's the other thing I've been playing. But other than that, pretty much just been grinding my ass at work, and I'm pretty much exhausted. I'm so glad it's Friday, dude. I'm so glad to be hanging out with all of you people on the Xbox 2 and Rand, and not having to do any more writing until Monday. Or corporate shenanigans. That's what often is my job these days, apparently. Oh, Rand's gifting subscribers to his own channel.
Yeah, well,
I don't know how to do that.
I saw Mecha Gojira joined the channel as a new member, and also gifted 5, so I matched the 5.
Oh, thanks to him.
So I gifted those. Thank you very much, Mecha, for gifting out those memberships. We have Sin Vendetta in the super chat. It says, Rand and Jez, what was the first game you got an achievement in? Mine was Condemned Criminal Origins. Now we're reminiscing. Let's reminisce about the 360.
I have literally no idea.
You don't remember what the first game you played on the 360 was?
No, how the hell are you guys remembering that?
I remember. When I bought the 360, I bought it with I think I had 3 games. One, the system came with Hexic HD. You remember the puzzle game? If you bought the system with the hard drive, because remember when the 360 came out, it had the
no hard drive
version with the hard drive and then the version without the hard drive. And Hexic HD was on the hard drive. I bought Perfect Dark Zero. I bought Call of Duty 2. And I want to say, I think maybe those were the only 2 games I had that I purchased. The first game I did play, so the first achievement I did get was in Perfect Dark Zero, though. And I didn't get very far because that game was doo-doo. Doo-doo water.
Dude. There's probably a website that lets you look up, right?
True Achievements would, but like True Achievements has that information, but I think I might have been offline. If it's offline, there's no date on it, but I remember what it was. It was Perfect Dark, because I remember being immensely disappointed in Perfect Dark Zero, and then I immediately went through Call of Duty 2. And then these achievements started. I looked at the achievement list, and it was like everything was for veteran. And normally I would just play on whatever difficulty. So I played it on veteran, and that I was like, these are really cool. These are really cool. I want to get all of these. And that started my love of getting achievements and stuff. So yeah, it was Perfect Dark Zero at first, and then Call of Duty 2, and then I think I already had GameFly. So I think I might have had Cameo waiting for me, because I had gotten GameFly in 2004. I was using it to get some PS2 games and some OG Xbox games and stuff. So then it was just like, all right, let me get Cameo, let me get King Kong, which King Kong was the first game to break my system. I remember that King Kong in March. So I bought my system. Yeah, I bought my system in January of 2006 because I couldn't find one in November, and I was having a great time with it, playing Condemned Criminal Origins. I think was also one of my first games. I remember finally starting to play King Kong in March, and my system red ringed. It would get to a certain part in the game and like freeze and stop. And I remember like being on the phone with Microsoft, and they were just like, "We're sending you a coffin," or they didn't call it a coffin, but everybody knew what it was. And I ended up going through like six 360s that generation. because
6.
yeah,
I think I went through 3 or something like that.
yeah.
It's crazy how that whole thing shook out, really. But I have no idea what
What
my
they
first
built a
achievement was.
machine that couldn't last longer, but
Yeah.
that basically malfunctioned right away, and people were. I remember how people were like wrapping their Xbox 360s in a towel to
Towel.
get
Yeah,
past
I
the red
remember
ring
that.
of death. But could you imagine if that happened now to like a
They'd be
system?
curtains. I don't think they'd survive if it was
Well,
now.
yeah, because like then in 2005, 2006, the PS3 wasn't out yet. The Wii wasn't
Mm.
out yet, but then the Wii did come out, but the Wii was more for casuals. It was more for the grandmas and the grandpas. And PlayStation 3, when it launched, was really expensive, and it didn't really have anything people wanted for a while. It wasn't really until like Uncharted 1 came out, like 2009, until like Sony started really getting some quality games, where like Xbox 360 had Gears, it had the upcoming Halo 3, it had like exclusives like Oblivion and like Saints Row 1, and I think like Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, because like it launched a year early. So like all the games, all the multiplayer games ran better on it. So like had all this stuff, and nobody wanted the PlayStation 3 at the time, and you didn't really want the Wii because the Wii was what the Wii was. So the only thing, if it's like you just had to go with the 360. But obviously, if that happened nowadays, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I just remember bulking at the PS3 price. Like there was just no way I could afford that at the time. I don't know if it was even more expensive in the UK, like disproportionately so because of imports or whatever like that at the time. But I just remember thinking, there's just no way. Like I can ask my parents for this, you know. But yeah, I don't know, it's whatever. I have no idea what my first achievement was, but one of the first games I played, it must have been Dead Rising 1, I think. I
Okay,
just
yeah, Dead Rising 1 was
that's what
another
in my head.
one of those games exclusives. I think it came out in 2006. Yeah.
I think yeah, I think that was my first, possibly my first place, first Xbox 360 game. But I honestly don't know. Honestly, don't know. Been a hot minute since those days, buddy.
Yeah, but you should still remember your first.
I had no idea. I
Uh,
don't think I even knew what achievements were when I first played it.
we got Dino. First off, I just want to say the two of you are awesome. Thanks for the show every week. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here and supporting us with Super Chat. We appreciate it. Do you guys think with this console PC hybrid that they will bring our entire console library over to PC as well? I mean, isn't that the dream? Isn't that
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
should we
how?
start talking about this topic now? Since
I
it's
mean,
one
if
of
you
the
want
main
to,
topics.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about it now. So, like, this sort of question dovetails into the major topic for this week's show, which is the continuing speculation about what Steam looks like on the next Xbox. And this all started again because Microsoft themselves, Rand, leaked leaked. They posted some concept art of what their vision is for the this is an Xbox thing, whatever, with like multiple devices in a row, console, PC, handhelds, mobile devices, all that kind of stuff. They posted like this huge sort of graphic which showcased all their stuff in a big lineup, right? And then it was Tom Warren, I believe, over at The Verge, eagle-eyed Tom Warren, noticed that in that graphic was like a new version of the Xbox PC app, which had a special filter at the top for Steam games. Now, as of writing, the Xbox app on PC does not include any of your games from Steam. So that filter does not exist on the current version of the app. The Xbox Game Bar, however, on
Which did just get an
PC,
update, I believe.
yeah, it's constantly getting updates. But
Yeah.
it got like a major visual overhaul recently. So that kind of like brought it more in line again with Xbox's design language, visual design language at least. And along with that, there was also they've also been developing something called compact mode, which makes it easier to use with a controller on a device like your Asus ROG Ally. Because one of the issues with it is it's designed for mouse and keyboard at the end of the day, and it's not particularly easy to navigate with a controller. And that's one of the big contentious issues with Windows gaming in general these days, is that it's just not easy do with a controller. Like, you can't navigate Windows with a controller. Things like logging into the system, things like Xbox Windows user account control, or accessing the control panel, or device manager, or any of those kind of stuff. You need a mouse and keyboard, at the very, very least, a touch screen, in order to access some of this stuff. So, where the Steam Deck has this kind of advantage is that there's a trackpad directly on the system for starters. So, like, if you ever do need to go into Linux for any reason, you've got a trackpad there that can handle some of that navigation, overhead. But then, like, on Windows, you're kind of relying on a touchscreen, which isn't always the best and doesn't give you a pointer and, for those precise clicks that you sometimes need. So Microsoft is working on rectifying that. And Jason Ronald said as much at CES that he wants to make all this stuff more navigable with a controller ahead of what we expect the next Xbox to be, which is a more Windows-based system. This sort of ties in with comments from Phil Spencer about getting Steam and the Epic Game Store running on the next Xbox. I think he said that a couple of years ago now, maybe last year, if I'm misremembering. And then also, all this stuff about Microsoft working on Project Kennen, which is a Windows-based handheld, Windows first, and like potentially without the bloatware that Asus and Lenovo kind of put onto these devices. Because Asus and Lenovo have their own software packages for their Windows gaming handhelds, which do let you boot into Steam with the controller, but they're not the best because they've just been sort of slapped on top of Windows itself. And it would obviously be better if Microsoft itself made a better sort of system to deliver that, right? Straight into the shell. So this got people speculating, Rand. This got a lot of people speculating because initially people thought, oh, that's... Because there's no PC in that screenshot, that graphic that Xbox posted. There's no PC in there, if I'm remembering correctly, except the handhelds. What there is, though, is an Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S on the left. So a lot of people were saying, like, people who weren't familiar with the Xbox app on PC, I saw some people saying, like, oh, that's the new dashboard. That's the new dashboard for the next Xbox, And it's got Steam integration, and that's sort of like a hint at how Steam's going to work on Xbox. It's literally just going to be a tab where, you can choose, like, whether you buy the game from Steam or whether you buy it from Xbox and all that kind of stuff, right? And that may well be how the next Xbox is, but it's sort of a hint about where it's all going, which is sort of like a more open Xbox where it's like, yep, there's the Xbox store and it has all of your games, all the games you've previously owned, all of the, everything that you would want to own on an Xbox, everything you've previously purchased, all those hundreds of games, and developers can still sell their games that exist on the Xbox platform today. And then on top of that, you'll be able to select games from other storefronts. You'll be able to pick from Steam, Epic Game Store, Good Old Games, itch.io, the indie game store, and maybe even Humble Bundle, and God knows what else. There's like an infinite amount of storefronts, third-party launchers, Genshin Impact launcher, Riot Client, Battle.net, all these different
the Riot Client,
services.
like the hell that rhymes. The Riot Client.
Riot Client, yeah. I mean, people don't think about stuff like the Riot Client, but Steam is only like 50% of the PC gaming landscape. A lot of it is like hidden away in these like launchers, like the Riot Client, like the Genshin Impact launcher. Hoyo, I think they call it Hoyo Home now or something or whatever. You've also got things like, the Final Fantasy client, because you don't need to buy Final Fantasy 14 on Steam. You can just get it directly. A lot of the biggest PC games in the world are sold directly to consumers and don't really go through Steam and stuff like that, right? So in that universe, Microsoft sort of closes the app gap in a sense where it's like you no longer have to worry about whether or not a game will be available on your Xbox. It'll either be available direct from Microsoft, and if it's not, like Monster Hunter Stories, for anyone at Microsoft listening, you'll be able to pick it up and play it via Steam, right? So, but then, Rand, came the discourse.
The discourse, which is unavoidable.
Discourse is unavoidable.
And this is, see, this whole thing, because we talked about this last week, but it kind of really even brewed up more this week, because the discourse surrounding this was, can or will Sony block this, right?
Yes.
Which
that's the Discord.
This whole thing, like the whole idea of Steam on Xbox, and like then immediately jumping to Sony's gonna block it or they can't block it for technical reasons, right? I'm not smart enough to know. And Xbox fans,
don't sell yourself short, bro.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know what Sony can or can't do. And I think anybody definitively saying like one way or the other at this point in time, I think is a little premature, but whatever. But then you have like some Xbox fans, like obviously there are going to be people that are like, I think that device, if they could actually get that to work properly and execute to the maximum, that is a compelling device, you know? Like, you buy this, and it's a decent price point at $800 or $700 or whatever. It's a powerful system, but it plays all your games you own everywhere outside of, like, PlayStation and Nintendo. And it's, like, super easy and convenient. I think that's a compelling device. But I think sometimes people tend to put... I think we're all putting, like, the cart before the horse here. Right? Because we've moved on from the idea of... I think everybody's like sort of accepted that Steam is going to be there. So it's like people have said this is happening, and we've moved on to the next part of the discussion, which is can and will Sony block it? Where like we don't, and I agree with you, I do feel like this is the future. And I do think like that's the way Microsoft seems to be walking and heading towards. But I feel like we've jumped over an important part of this of like, is it actually going to happen? Is Steam actually going to be there? We've like completely like jumped over that to get to the next part, which is if it is there, then you could play PlayStation games on this Xbox device. And then the discussion becomes, well, will they or will they won't block it? And then moving past that, it's like, oh, you know, hey, this is a huge Xbox W, blah, blah, blah. And then there's some PlayStation fans that are like terrified of because there are a lot of PlayStation fans that hate PC. And like the idea of like Xbox players being able to play those games on their Xbox device, like they're scared of that idea for whatever dumb reason. But I really do feel like we've jumped the gun here. Like we don't even know if Steam's actually going to end up on Xbox, because this all started, and it wasn't because of the UI slip up, Jez. The whole reason this whole thing started was because Phil talked about it. Phil mentioned the idea of other storefronts on an Xbox device, and he specifically mentioned Epic and itch.io, and he never mentioned Steam. And this, so like that got people, and I forget, maybe this was I think this was sometime last year. I think after the time they did the podcast where they said only 4 games. So that got people's imaginations running wild. Like, oh, well, you know, what if Steam came to Xbox? Because PlayStation put their games on Steam, and look at all these games that don't come to Xbox, but you'd be able to play them on Steam. Like, that's perfect. So people in their minds have already accepted this as like gonna happen. And I just kind of find it funny that we've moved past, like everybody seems to just be like, yep, it's 100% happening. And we've moved on to the next part. So like so you know what's funny is that what if it doesn't happen? And like imagine it doesn't happen. Imagine if like Steam's just like, you know what, we'd rather not, or they can't come to an agreement on some revenue sharing thing, because
mutually beneficial agreement. Yeah.
Well, you know, just maybe Steam's
it's
like,
got to benefit both sides, right?
Yeah, because I remember the reports back in the day where like there was the chance Game Pass was going to come to Switch, you know, and I even remember Special Nick saying that there was some Switch Xbox partnership in the works, and never materialized for who knows whatever reasons. But I remember people talking about this years ago, about there being some sort of partnership between Xbox and Nintendo, and it never. And I remember people talking about it even back then, and thinking like, oh, it's gonna be cool, be able to play your Xbox games on Nintendo handheld, and it's gonna Game Pass is gonna be on there, and it's gonna grow so big. But it didn't happen. So now we're in this thing where we're looking at Steam, and are could people be in for another one of those where like you get your hopes up, and then when reality comes in, and it's not the PlayStation, it's not Steam, it's maybe itch.io or something else, and maybe it takes longer for Steam to come for whatever reason, and then it's not so much. But then I guess you could still blame Xbox for this because they're the ones who put out a user a mock-up of something that said Steam on it. But then, like, you know, they haven't come out to... I sort of wonder if they're looking at the discussion at this point and being like, maybe we should curb this. Because if you remember last year, they let the rumors about the third-party, you know, them going third-party kind of fester for a bit, right? Those rumors kind of started in the beginning of January, and there wasn't the business update until like the middle of February. So they let all those rumors circulate for quite some time before they thought, okay, well, we need to say something. And I sort of wonder if like this is going to take on its life of its own. And, you know, because to me, it's like at best, this is 2 years away from happening. And at worst, it doesn't happen at all. You know what I mean? And I understand, like, speculation's fun. And you talk about this and what could be the benefits and what could be the drawbacks. You know,
part of it is a slow news cycle.
Well, yeah, there's that. But I mean, I do think there is something to be said for if this were to happen, like that really could change things. I'm not saying it could change the console war, quote unquote, or Microsoft's going to go from selling 40 million whatever to 100 million. But I'm saying, like...
What about 1 billion?
You know, it definitely makes potentially the next Xbox device a more compelling thing, especially if you're going to price it potentially higher than you normally would. And maybe if you can market and be like, all the games that you won't, like, you right? So it's like, because Steam is so big, it's like, hey, I got... And, you know, is there, like... a way that maybe that hardware could like dominate the like mid-range PC, because it's like, oh, you can just buy this thing for $700, play all the Xbox games, get Game Pass, and then play your games on Steam, and then all that stuff, you know, digital licenses, take it to the cloud, take it to your handheld, all that stuff. Like, it's a compelling idea, and I think it would be a compelling product if done correctly, because we talked about it last week about the idea of like if it's true and if it happens. It needs to be simple. It can't be, I bought this Xbox console, which will end up being like a PC anyways, but I have to hook up my keyboard and mouse to it to like access Steam. It needs to be like an app or a button you press when you're on the store, and there needs to be like, go to the Steam store, and it just immediately loads up, and it's like, I buy something and it downloads, and the system can just run it. It can't be something convoluted, otherwise it's only going to really appeal to a certain segment of the audience. But
millennials.
Getting back to the whole thing about the... So what was the discourse this week, Jez, was about what? The PlayStation. Can they? Or won't they? Right?
Yeah, this is like the console war thing, right? Ultimately, because PlayStation's handful of games are such a small part of the benefits of having Steam on your system. There's thousands of games you could play on Steam that aren't on Xbox, you know, of all shapes and sizes. Like, it's an indie mecca. There's so many amazing games that have just never launched on any console, that are just on Steam, you know. And also, you know, all those games that you previously purchased on Steam, you know, if you are someone who plays across multiple systems like I am. But you know, for people who really sort of, you know, the whole proposition of Xbox putting its games on PlayStation and not giving anything back, I think is a valid reason to be pissed at Microsoft. Because it's like, you know, this is one of the reasons why I bought your system, and now you're taking it away from me. You know, I bought your system over PlayStation because I was expecting these games to be exclusive, and now you're telling me they're no longer exclusive. I kind of feel like you have to, if you're making a consumer product, if you're taking something away, you kind of have to give something back, you know. And you could argue, yeah, Game Pass is something exclusive to Xbox, which offers a compelling amount of value. but it also boils down to like, what have you done for me lately? You know, we kind of all just take Game Pass for granted at this point, right? Rightly or wrongly. But in any case, a lot of Xbox fans have sort of seen this as a way to bridge that gap where it's like, okay, well, if I don't get PlayStation games natively on Xbox, like Helldivers or whatever, maybe I get it sideways via Steam. And then a lot of people have been discussing about, like, a lot of people have been sort of running, I suppose, victory laps already.
Sure.
And I was just, my whole thing was just to put it out there on Twitter, you know, don't run your victory laps too quickly, because I know from speaking to people familiar with Microsoft plans that they're not performing the victory laps about this, and they are exploring, you know, whether or not Sony would even try to do something like restrict their games on a specific OEM. And then a lot of people push back about me issuing caution. You know, Destin Gary pushed back, Paris pushed back if he's still there.
Paris
Paris.
Paris pushback. Wow, Paris.
Yeah. Tom Warren pushed back
Mm.
quite aggressively, I might add.
Mm-hmm.
And noting that a variety of reasons, there's no precedent for this. There's no precedent for a per OEM block on a Steam game. And indeed, there is no precedent for this. There is no policy within Steam for this, where it's like you can restrict your games to a specific Windows-based system or a specific Linux-based system or whatever. It's supposed to be just you put the game on Steam and then it's accessible to anyone who can access Steam. But at the end of the day, the license holders are the ones that hold some of the cards here. And, you know, Nvidia found this out the hard way. And yes, I know it's not the same completely, but at the same time, it kind of is, because when you are playing a game via Steam on Nvidia GeForce Now, you are logging into your Steam account. There is no technical reason why I can't just log into my full Steam account on that remote server and play any of the games I have that are attached to that Steam account. There is no technical reason why I can't do that, right? And people in chat are already crying about this, saying, not this get GFN thing right now. The whole point of me bringing this up is to illustrate that license holders went to Nvidia and said, look, you can't build a platform on our content without our permission, right? And I think potentially PlayStation could make the same argument here. You can't, and they could go to Steam and say, look, we don't want our content to give Microsoft a differential in marketability of their competing console platform. They can make that argument. I really, you know, and I don't think, and I know Microsoft themselves have taken that as a possibility. But the issue is, right?
Well, I mean, but the thing, like, of course they have to take it as a possibility because you have to plan for all eventualities. So
exactly. So for people who are running victory laps already, Microsoft itself thinks there is a possibility Sony could throw a wrench in the works and just be like, Steam, we're not going to let you, or we need to negotiate about this, or there needs to be some kind of concession here, or there needs to be something. I don't think Sony's just going to sit there and let it happen.
Well, let me ask this question. Let me ask you this. How would then Sony's official stance be regarding the rumored Steam console, something that would compete with their console model, but they, you know, or would that just be something they would have to eat because, like, well, by putting the games on Steam, you know, there's nothing, you know what I mean? Because like because you've talked about this before about the Steam consoles and how that could compete with Xbox and PlayStation, and it would have all of Xbox's games and all PlayStation games. So would PlayStation feel differently about a Steam console than they would Xbox, or were they just do they not just view? They clearly don't view Steam or PC as competition, and I think that's part of the issue. Is PlayStation does, despite what PlayStation fans think, they view Xbox as direct competitors.
Yeah.
And I don't think they view PC as... But then again, a Steam console doesn't exist yet. And I think a Steam console would be almost direct competition to a PlayStation, would it not?
I mean, potentially, yeah.
So...
But that's why Steam so far has sort of stayed out of offering something like that. Um, so it's kind of like when you look at sort of the landscape of the way Sony's behaved with regards to some of this stuff, and every move they do is geared towards hurting Xbox, and that's why like there is a thought process at Microsoft that if they were to go down this route of opening up to other storefronts, is Sony gonna try and angle to do a per device block on their content? That opens up a huge can of worms because like you could start getting OEMs saying things like, okay, well, we're going to buy the exclusive distribution rights to a PC game on Steam. And if Sony can do that, then why can't we go to Steam, sorry, and say, we want our PC game to be exclusive to Asus laptops because Asus has given us a shitload of money, right? So, like, I think that's why, even though I think this is something that could possibly happen, I think it's incredibly unlikely that Steam would allow it to happen because it opens up such a huge can of worms. A per device block, an OEM block on specific games, is unprecedented in PC gaming, at least that I could research. And it just opens up so many pathways to shenanigans from publishers, from platform holders, and all that kinds of stuff. So, and also, it would just make PlayStation look like dicks.
Yeah, I don't
If
think
the
they.
next
I don't think
Xbox,
they would care about that though.
I don't think they would care too much about it either. But at the same time, it's like, well, this next Xbox is a Steam PC as well as an Xbox PC, but the games I've purchased on Steam aren't available. So then like you get people would be going to Steam and saying like, I bought these games, but they're not available on the PC that I bought just because it's got an Xbox logo on it. So I personally think it's unlikely that they would block the games or would be allowed to block the games. But all I'm saying is that it could happen. There is a universe where Sony could try to win some kind of concession on it because they don't want to give Xbox any marketing power or any sort of messaging that could just be like, well, okay. Because Phil even said we want to win on our hardware differentiation. Phil, having the ability to run every single game on your system in an affordable PC-like package, that's a pretty powerful marketing message, I think. And I don't think Sony wants to give them any ammunition towards achieving that goal, So, um, that's kind of like where I'm at with that. And, while I personally doubt they are going to block it, I also wouldn't be surprised if there is some kind of shenanigans down the line. And I think people running victory laps and saying like, "Oh, they can't block it" and stuff. I think you could end up being unpleasantly surprised.
Well,
At the end of the day, I haven't arrived at this conclusion myself. It's from speaking to people who understand the landscape. Not just random people. It's like sourced information. So, and this is what I always often find funny about people being selective when it comes to my information, because now I've got PlayStation fanboys who are out there saying, "Oh look, Jez said Sony can block the games," and these are the same people who are constantly like saying,
you're
"Oh,
a
you can't
liar.
trust Jez.
Yeah,
Jez is a liar or a
Jez a
fanboy or
liar.
whatever."
Can't trust
And now
him.
it's like,
Yeah, now he's like
so
he's the bastion of truth.
yeah, I'm the bastion of truth now for these people, right? At the same time, it's like, well, if you trust my information about the Xbox Series S or Canon or whatever, or any of the other illustrious catalogs of accurate reports I've done over the years, why would you assume I'm making this one up? That I've spoke to someone in the know and they've said this is like a
Because it only
possibility
matters
that's
when
actually been considered.
because your information only matters to them when it fits their worldview and their agenda, and if anything's against it, then you're not to be believed. So
Yeah, I haven't just pulled this out of my ass. Genuinely speaking, like this is like the last thing I'd want to be wrong about, But um And I've tried to get a Steam source on it, of course, and Steam could just put the kibosh on it straight away and say, "Look, we're not in the market of allowing
But the
OEMs
thing is,
to."
we don't even know for sure if Steam's gonna come. Like that's
Yeah,
the things. Like
exactly. That's why
we've
it's
jumped
always,
past
yeah.
it. We've
We
gone.
jumped the gun.
Everyone's gone past and is talking about the possibilities. Like, would Sony care? Could they try to block it? Do they have the capability to block it? Like, if you're asking me, is Sony petty enough to block it? I would just say, look at the most recent Nintendo Direct, the one they had yesterday, where they announced some older dead PlayStation IP, like the Patapon 1 and 2, everybody's Hot Shot Golfs, right? That they're putting on the Switch.
Never even heard of that.
Guess what? They ain't coming to Xbox. And Sony's licensing those games out to Bandai Namco, and I wonder if that's because they're not officially a publisher on PlayStation or a publisher on Nintendo. So I think MLB The Show on the Switch is published by MLB, just like it's published by MLB here on the Xbox. So I don't really think PlayStation's a formal publisher on Nintendo, which is kind of, I think, why... Well, maybe this is a different reason about like maybe why Death Stranding was published by 505 Games on PC at the time. I'm not even sure who's the Do you know who the publisher is of Death Stranding on Xbox? Is it 505 Games? Is it PlayStation? I'm not sure.
I'm honestly not sure. I think it might just be Kojima Productions.
It could be because they might. I mean, let me see, because usually this website has Death Stranding.
Hunter says 505.
A director's cut. Death Stranding director's cut on Xbox is publisher is 505 Games. Okay, developers Kojima Productions. Yeah. So even on Xbox, PlayStation's not the publisher. So I sort of wonder if like these games. Well, then there's the Lego game, the Lego Horizon game. I wonder who published that on Switch then. But so they license these games out to Bandai, and Bandai's publishing them on Switch. And you see like, okay, well, they're putting these games on Switch. Why aren't they putting it on Xbox, right? And the simple answer to that question is because PlayStation doesn't want to do anything to help Xbox out at all. They don't want to put their games out on Xbox. So if you follow that logic all the way down to the idea of PlayStation games being playable on an Xbox device through Steam, I guarantee you PlayStation doesn't want that to happen.
Exactly.
Because even if you look at it from both ways, Sony getting 30% of the cut from, just to say Steam for selling their games there, and if they put their games on Xbox, they still get the same 30% cut. I don't know, whatever deal they made with Bandai. So like you just look at their most recent announcements and how they view Xbox and not putting games on there that they're not forced to, that doesn't have some other IP holder involved. They clearly don't want to give Xbox any ammunition, so they're not going to. And even though like something like Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox would probably boost up the player count and make a lot of money for them. I mean, I don't necessarily know about these games in particular, but it should show you that Sony has no love for Xbox and they don't want their games playable on the system. So I'm sure that they don't want, their Steam versions of the game running on an Xbox device. Now, would they cause enough trouble to try to get it to be blocked? I don't know, because you're in the situation where a lot of people expect the next Xbox to sell less than even the current one. And at that point, they might figure it's not worth it, that we're just going to end up taking some of these users organically anyways that leave the Xbox ecosystem because, well, Indiana Jones was just announced for PlayStation, and Forza Horizon 5 is coming at the end of the month, and a lot of them are going to be day and date and stuff, and they might just feel a lot of people are just going to leave organically, that we don't really have to go on the warpath and try to convince Steam to do something. But it is an interesting point. I do think Sony's petty enough where they're like, we don't want our games anywhere on the system and playable any way if they had their say.
Of course they are.
The question
it's
is
just
like
about whether it's possible.
Whether it's possible, and that has a different discussion altogether. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was kind of funny to see those PlayStation games at the Nintendo Direct because everybody's like, "Oh, there's going to be Xbox games there. What is Halo going to be there? Is Gears going to be there?" Nope, PlayStation games that nobody expected, and it sort of makes me
But
think.
this is the thing. Like Microsoft created this environment now where no one knows what to expect. It's kind of annoying, you know. When you're trying to create a consistent consumer message, it's like Microsoft's done everything in their power to create an inconsistent message. You know, but we're talking about our sort of little corner of the internet here. You know, the vast majority of people who play on these systems aren't even aware any of this is going on, which further sort of, compounds the
I don't
idea.
know.
Sorry, go on.
So I do have an. I know this is anecdotal, but one of my friends, like one of my like high school friends, I was talking to him the other day, and he's not really a gamer, right? Or at least he hasn't been in a while. So he was telling me that he went to GameStop and wanted to pick up Xbox because he had heard about Game Pass, and he said, he wanted to like play a bunch of games, but he didn't really have a lot of money to devote to it. So he told me he went to GameStop, brought the Xbox up to the counter to buy, and the GameStop employee told him that he should get a PlayStation instead because Xbox is putting all their games on PlayStation. Like my
Uh,
buddy had the system brought up to, it wasn't like he asked him for his opinion. He had the system like, this is what I want, and he had some gift cards, and the guy literally told him you should put that back and get a PlayStation
well,
instead.
this is one of the issues with the Game Pass plan in the first place, was that it's an existential threat to retailers. So they're not going to push it, are they? Of course they're going to push a PlayStation over a Game Pass machine, even though PlayStation has its own version of Game Pass. It's not really front and center in the way that Game Pass is. It hurts their retail sales, you know.
Well, GameStop
So
is GameStop. They'll be dead probably in 5 years, anyways.
they're becoming a crypto company. I read.
Are
You
they?
see
Well,
this?
they'll be dead
Yeah,
real soon. Then, is anybody really gonna
share
invest
price is
in
up,
it?
man.
Is anybody really gonna invest in the GameStop crypto coin?
I think they're doing something with Bitcoin. Like, I don't know. This
Mm.
is the like
Is this
becoming
like
an
the Hawk
exchange or
2? Is
something.
this like the Hawk 2 coin? Made the girl
I have no
disappear for like
idea.
5 months.
Oh, yeah, where's she gone?
I don't know. She's back now though.
Oh, is she back? Should we
Apparently.
get her on the podcast?
Yeah. Sure.
Can you imagine?
That'd be funny.
That'd be funny. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Xbox's
Well, you did some polls though.
strategical.
How did the polls shake out for you regarding this
Yeah, so
stuff?
I did some polls. Like first poll I did was, are you still excited about Xbox's future?
Okay.
And 50%, well, it was like 49.9% of people who replied to the poll on Windows Central's gaming account, which has 100,000 almost members. Half the people said they were still excited about the future of Xbox. 25% said they had mixed feelings, and 25% said they were no longer excited, something like that. And then there was a small percentage of people who said they never liked Xbox. And I just put that in for the haters, so they had something to click onto. So opinions are kind of split. I suppose like half a positive, a quarter was mixed, and then another quarter was outright negative about it. So, and that's amongst the hardcore audience. I think some of Microsoft's biggest issues is that retail customer, like your friend, for example. And this is something I heard about Xbox even back in the day, that Sony had like an army of retail reps who evangelized the product to store managers and things like that. And Microsoft just has never had anything like that for any of their products, whether it's Surface or anything, you know. So Microsoft's never really gotten retail or gotten consumer products or sort of done the things they need to do to promote their products in a way that other electronics companies kind of do. But I kind of feel like if they are moving towards a world where, they're going to be making less than ever on software with the next system, presumably, if they are putting Epic Game Store, Steam, and all that kind of stuff on their system, it'll be Steam and Epic Games who are making money, or whoever else in that universe, for some games at least. And I suppose it does depend how it's implemented, and it depends on things like, will Microsoft get a cut of those games sold off their system? I mean, I doubt it. I don't think Asus or Lenovo get any kind of cut like that. Um, so you've got that to worry about and consider. But I do think there is kind of an impetus there that Microsoft has to take their retail play more seriously if they are sort of becoming a hardware maker rather than a platform owner, over time. And, just to round this off, we never actually answered the guy's question. And his question was, I can't remember your name, sorry, but maybe Rand remembers. The question was, at the end of the day, will this system run my Xbox games?
This is
And,
from Dino.
From Dino, like tentatively, the information that I've got is that yes, it will, either via emulation or some other sort of natively, maybe they put the chip on it or something like that. It should run all of your games. Like I don't think there's a universe that exists where Microsoft has championed backwards and forwards compatibility where they can ship a system that doesn't run all of those games in some capacity. So there might be some caveats, like like Rand's, what was it called? Rand Sakurai Adventures or whatever, the visual
What, the
novel you
visual
play.
novel stuff I talked about
Yeah,
earlier? Yeah. What about it?
maybe there's some obscure games which maybe don't come along with backwards compatibility or don't get emulated or whatever. But I think there is I think when Sarah Bond announced that she's got a forwards compatibility team, I think part of that was to emphasize that they still, even within this sort of strategy, they are thinking about the current user. Otherwise, why even make that announcement?
Well,
Um,
maybe because I think you make that announcement. I wonder if there's ever a thought of getting rid of backwards compatibility. You know what I
they
mean?
probably thought. I mean, it's expensive,
Well, no, I mean,
and
because
not
like the idea of like
necessarily.
announcing, oh, we have a forwards compatibility team. Was there ever a thought process going in that maybe they were just going to get rid of backwards compatibility to like hit their targets or whatever they wanted to do, but then decided no. I mean, imagine a future where they come out with the next system and they're like, everything's PC, but none of your games that you've purchased come with you. Like they're all stuck on the Xbox, OG Xbox, the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X and S. Like this is just like like how much damage that would have done. I mean, because you still have a lot of people tweeting about, oh, please bring back this game to back compat or this whatever and this game and that game. And, it seems like they tweet into the void. And will it happen? I don't know, potentially, but there's probably a good chance it won't. But imagine if, like, Microsoft, who made a big deal out of it in 2015, so much so that, like, it seemed like one of the biggest announcements, like, back compat, because nobody else was really doing it, only to like get rid of it, and how like the people would have revolted. Like that would have been it
Clearly,
for a lot of people. So I sort of feel like they
yeah.
had to, but it's like announcing like, oh, a forwards compatibility team. I do wonder if there's ever serious discussions about
There probably
ending
was.
it and being
probably
like, we're done with this because this is our future and we can't figure out a way to bring this stuff forward because we're going to be combining Windows PC with the console and everything's going to be PC games. And like clearly, the console games and the licenses and stuff. So I do wonder if there ever were discussions about like
no.
completely just ending it all.
I'm sure there was. There's a lot of things like backwards compatibility create overhead, right? It costs. It's not free to have these kind of programs and these kind of features baked into your hardware. Like especially if they're moving to a Windows environment and ditching ERA as the native developer environment. Like not all those games are going to be fully compatible with Windows or potentially. So there's got to be some kind of translation layer which makes those games run, and that costs money. So if they were thinking like we are going to sort of reboot the Xbox brand completely and just become a affordable Windows PC brand with a store that's mainly Game Pass and just sort of give away the console market to Sony and Nintendo. I mean, they probably would have thought like, yeah, we're going to do that, possibly. But from what I know, there's no plans to do that. The last comment I had speaking to a source was they're committed to the store. They're committed to the Xbox store still, you know. Even if they do go ahead with this Steam integration and all this kind of stuff. So I asked these questions. I'm like, well, if I've got Steam, like, aren't aren't you sort of you're toying with consumer confidence there? And it's like, well, if consumers feel more confidently that Steam has a stronger future than Xbox, aren't I gonna like, gonna start buying game? Aren't more people gonna start buying games on Steam, especially amongst the hardcore connected sort of audience? Um, but I was told they're still committed to their store, and but that's then, and what does the landscape look like in a couple of years? We don't know. And Xbox has been super quiet. They've been like uncharacteristically quiet, I think, recently, with regards to strategy and things like that. I heard they were at one point last year they were exploring doing another business update kind of thing for this quarter. I don't know if those plans got shelved. I presume that might have been related to Canon and the OEM push. To bring in OEMs to making, Xbox certified devices or something like that, something along those lines. Maybe that's what that was. Because obviously that's waiting in the wings too. There's a lot of unknowns with this strategy. It's a lot of unprecedented things that have never been done before. Um, but it's kind of coming full circle in a way, Rand. Because this was the vision for the original Xbox.
Mm,
If you remember the original Xbox sold off on to Bill Gates was Windows for the living room, an
right.
all-in-one entertainment center that was sort of like a Windows kiosk that was friendly to navigate via a controller from your sofa that would be Windows based, all up Windows based, right? So, um, that's the full circle that we've gone all the way around, and now we're getting the original Xbox vision. Now that we have the technology to do it, in theory, it's all about execution, and that's something you've always said. It's always about execution. Can they execute on that vision? Will it actually work? Will it? Will I have to do stupid things like boot into the desktop? Will I have to manage drivers? Will my games blue screen of death? All
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. The execution is key. And I suppose that's what the next 2 years is Microsoft going to be grinding on. That's why we don't have things like a new achievement system. That's why we've got like a buggy, very basic game DVR system. All the development work right now is going towards figuring out what this looks like. And I really do believe if they integrate that shit, if they do it well and execute, I think it could be the best console ever made, man.
Hmm.
Like, as someone who plays games on Steam, occasionally, that's a dream for me. All the games that don't come to Xbox for incidental reasons, like Monster Hunter Stories, I will get those now. And I don't have to think about like, I don't have to, use my work device for gaming reasons. I'll be able to have that set up in a living room if I ever can afford a house. That kind of stuff, right? So, um, um, I'm compelled by the idea, but like you say, has to be executed well.
Yeah. We'll see how this goes. And you say Microsoft has been quiet, but I mean, didn't Phil just go out and talk to 3 entities, talk about stuff like that wasn't that long ago? But I guess you're more referring to like a different aspect of it, other than like Phil chatting it up with people.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, just talking about what the future is and the
well, I mean,
strategy,
I
and
think they're
I
too. I
suppose.
still think they're too far out. You can't really start talking about that if you're targeting 2027. It's still only 2025. So I still think they're too far out to really talk about this in any
Mm,
specific way. I mean, you maybe get, I don't know, maybe they talk about whenever this Project Keenan's revealed about maybe their vision for OEM stuff, but even still for next generation, they wouldn't start talking about that shit until it's revealed. And then you'd probably go more in depth of that. But if you're figuring a 2027 launch, the earliest they'd reveal it is like June of next year, right? And who knows even if they would do it then. So, you know, you still might get like Phil saying vague things in interviews like innovation and stuff like that, where they're just buzzwords, but they can't really actually talk about what they're going to innovate or the capabilities of the machines because they're not at the marketing cycle to really talk about those things yet. So it's going to be more waiting. We have a Sith Lord, member for 26 months, says, Rand, our 125th season White Sox are undefined in 2025, better than the 1 and 2 Cub, or undefeated, I would imagine is what he meant. Better than the 1 and 2 Cubs losers. Enjoy the W. It's hard to enjoy a White Sox win. How will the rest of the season go? Probably not good, buddy. Probably not good at all. Rave Damo says, new podcast name, Xbox 2 plus Steam. Let's go. That'd be funny. Daswell Gordon says, been watching since news broke of Kojima making an Xbox game and haven't missed an episode since, so it's been 4 years for me now. P.S. Rand is handsome. Oh, okay. People did say like I had a rockin' beard and we were in competition for that. That Kojima game, has it really been 4 years? It's been a while. And that's another game that sometimes when I think about the upcoming games for Xbox, OD is always a game that slips my mind for some reason. And I am a Kojima fan. You know, I am very much looking forward to Death Stranding 2. So, but I don't know, maybe it's because I know OD is not going to be on the same level, that it seems to be more of like maybe a mobile experience or whatever. I still don't know what OD is going to be. I mean, we've had maybe some leaks about it, and who even knows when it's going to come out. The game might not even come out until 2027. So, but I can't believe that's been 4 years.
Game adaptation newscast says, Rand's a tall drink of water.
Whoa, okay. Tall drink of water, huh? I am tall. Colt was like, oh, you're not as tall as I thought. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm pretty tall. I mean, I'm 6'2". I mean, I guess I'm not like super tall, but you know.
Yeah, 6'2", that's tall, bro.
6'2".
You know, like, if you're not 6 foot, you're not even like worthy as a man. I saw it on Instagram. Okay. So, you know, I'm 5 foot 8. So I don't even exist, bro. I don't even exist. So you have to be 6 foot or over.
Steve
McGovern, you got that going for you.
Super Chat says, a really fun spiritual successor to PS1 game, Kula World, released on Steam this week. It's called AXYZ. Hopefully get to play it on the next Xbox 2. Eye emoji. I did see during the Nintendo Direct that the Monument Valley games are finally coming to Xbox after what seems like, 10 years? Didn't Monument Valley come out on like iPhones in like 2014? Or is that... That's probably... When did Monument Valley come out, Jez?
What is Monument Valley? I don't even know what it is. Dude, I need to shut my window. I'm freezing.
You've never heard of Monument Valley? It's like one of the better phone games.
Never heard of it, mate.
Yeah, it came out in April of 2014. So they announced during the Switch thing that Monument Valley 1 and Monument Valley 2 are coming to Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox on April 15th. And then Monument Valley 3 is coming to the platforms this summer. And this is a game, like I said, it's 10 years old, 11 years old, really.
What is it?
It's a Monument Valley is a puzzle and indie game by Us Two Games. The player leads the princess. It's basically one of the better mobile phone games that really existed. It deals with a lot of like I've seen videos of it and it looks super creative. You know, you just watch the trailer, but I think it's kind of funny that 11 years later it's finally coming to consoles. I always did want to
I
play
could
those
try it.
games, but I didn't want. Yeah, I didn't.
I've literally never heard of these games. I didn't watch the Nintendo Direct, as you might expect. I know Windows Central covered it. Our illustrious news team grabbed it. Monument Valley. Just gonna look it up.
I guess
Look it up.
now
Oh,
I
it's an
can.
actual valley in real life.
Well, no, there's a game.
Oh, this
But
is some puzzle ass game.
yeah, it's a puzzle game. I told you, it's a puzzle game that deals with perspectives and stuff like that.
No one cares about that.
But I mean, I'm pretty sure it reviewed incredibly
Joke.
high.
Yeah, but who wants to think when they're
I
playing
know,
games,
but
dude?
still, the game's 11 years old, and it's like finally coming to console, and they're bringing all three of them. But oh, the
Does
game?
it come in cloud gaming?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But
That looks like a kind of game that would be good for cloud gaming with touch.
the game I said I was playing earlier that I can't talk about. I can finally mention what game that is.
As of right now.
Yes, as of right now.
I'm sure people in the chat will be shocked.
Yeah. I've been playing South of Midnight. So South of Midnight
Woo.
from Xbox and Compulsion Games. Been playing it. I don't think I can really say anything more, really. I got the game earlier this week. So look for... I'll definitely be talking about it on the next podcast. So Friday next week. Or no. When does the game come out? April 3rd? Yeah, well, that's next week. So yeah, Friday next week, I'll definitely give my thoughts about it. So...
Everyone in chat is
I know
shocked,
everyone's
bro.
shocked. Yeah.
I'm shocked too, actually. I'm really shocked.
Shocked.
Maximum shocked.
Shocked at South of Midnight. Indeed.
I'm shook. That's what they say, the kids, right? I'm shooked.
Shooketh.
Shooketh.
Silas, member for 17 months, says, Jez, do you ever get in trouble with your better half when you make frivolous purchases like the Lilith statue? I'm in a pickle with mine. Help. Uh-oh.
I mean, yeah. She still brings that up to this day.
Yeah, I bet she does.
I'll tell you an anecdote.
Okay.
I had an Uber driver the other day. I had an Uber driver who was he was talking about a range of things, politics, all this kind of stuff, right? And he was like, he asked me about cryptocurrency. And he was like, oh, crypto's flying at the moment, crypto's flying. And I was like, because he was complaining a lot about Elon Musk, right? And I was like, yeah, I know about crypto. Do you have any crypto? And he told me he lost £12,000 on Dogecoin because he bought in because he believed, he believed the hype when Musk was hyping it back in like 2023 or something like that. And he's lost £12,000. I was like, oh, how did your wife feel about that? And it's just like, oh, she nearly divorced me.
Nearly.
So I was like, yeah. So I was like, yeah, okay. So Lilith statue probably won't increase in value, but at least I didn't lose 12 grand on Dogecoin. Oh man, I really fell for the guy. Do you have any Dogecoin, Rand?
I have no
Dogecoin.
I have no Dogecoin, and I don't have a significant other that criticizes my purchases, so I can make all the dumb purchases I want. So I'm not
what
in the
about
same.
Hawk coin?
I don't have any of that either. I did. I have all these books that I have that I'm trying to get through, and I keep on buying more books. I'll be like, oh, I want to buy this. So like, I finished this book last night, Paper Towns by John Green, which was fantastic. If anybody wants
physical copy,
of course, I only do physical copies. I can't do ebook and I can't do audiobook. But I finished Paper Towns, and I really, really, really liked it. It's a coming of age story, kid in high school. Person goes missing. I'm not going to really say much more, but I really, really enjoyed it. So I bought like a couple of his other books, but then earlier in the week I had bought a couple other books. I got like 6 books coming on Monday, just adding to the ever-growing like nonstop backlog I have of books sitting in my house. That I gotta do something with. Like I gotta get like a nice display for these things and stuff. But so like, if I maybe had like how you and Silas have, I probably would be like, you really need more, spend more money on this. We don't have enough. I don't have enough space. But no, I got nobody saying that, so I spend my money on whatever I want. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm getting. Not only am I getting one Lilith statue, I'm getting 2 Lilith statues.
I feel a little bit silly about it. I was so hyped for Diablo 4.
You were hyped for Diablo 4.
I barely touched it this year.
I mean,
I might go back for the next
Diablo.
season.
I'm not surprised. I barely finished the game.
Yeah, it hasn't been as good. Like the live service portion has not been as good as I expected or hoped. But the base game's fantastic, and I still like the world and the lore and stuff. I've got high hopes for the April update. I think it's coming very soon, I think. And it seems like they're taking longer development cycles to up the quality or whatever now, but I don't know, man. I don't know. What should we talk about next, buddy?
What shall we talk about? Let us talk about the stuff going on with Ubisoft. That's a big story.
That is a big story.
So, I guess as to be expected, the Ubisoft has created a new subsidiary or a new company where they're putting subsidiary, where they're putting their most valuable IP, which would be Assassin's Creed, Far Cry. They mentioned Rainbow Six, so they didn't mention Tom Clancy. They specifically mentioned Rainbow Six, and I think someone else said The Division. I could be wrong, but they specifically shouted out like those 3 games, and they had a 25% investment from Tencent. So Tencent owns 25% of this new company, where they invested like $1.25 billion. So
that's a lot of billions of dollars.
It seems like a win for Yves Gamal and the Gamal family. They get a company that's valued higher than Ubisoft is currently. They retain control, like full control and creative control. They get a huge investment, and it seems like nothing but a win. And I sort of wonder what's going to be the fallout from this. Meaning, if you aren't Assassin's Creed, and you aren't Far Cry, and you aren't Rainbow Six Siege, and you're somebody working on Splinter Cell, or somebody working on Rabbids or Rayman or The Division or whatever else IPs didn't get moved in this new company, are you in trouble? like because it seems it's basically them coming out and being like, these are the franchises we care about that are probably going to get the most investment and are probably going to have the best people we have working on them because they're the linchpin to our future. So anybody else working on the games that aren't mentioned, are you going to be starting like worrying about your jobs? Because if you know what I mean, like I don't know, like what do you think, Jez? What's the word?
Well, I did see like some commentary from industry figures, and a lot of them were shocked about how little Tencent had to pay. But then I saw other people who were shocked that that how small of a stake they got for that money, where it's like the Ubisoft family got away with robbery or something like that. So I've seen a lot of takes about it. I haven't really spoken to anyone I personally trust to get a good analysis of it just yet. But I kind of feel like you. It's like, well, structurally speaking, what happens to all those other studios, all those other games, and should those people be a little bit nervous now? I would hope that Ubisoft's gonna, I suppose, update and brief those people on what's going on as soon as possible. But I do wonder, selfishly speaking, like as a gamer or whatever, what does that mean for the games? What does that mean for me and my games? Is that going to lead to higher quality games now? Like, what does that exactly mean? Because I suppose one of the big contentious issues about Ubisoft is the quality bar they've been setting for games that aren't necessarily Assassin's Creed, I suppose. Like Division 2 was, had all its issues, and then you've got like, Beyond Good and Evil's been in development for what, 20,000 years or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Splinter Cell. What's going on with that? You've got a mountain of
For
dormant IP.
Honor, Ghost
Yeah,
Recon games. Like, there's so many of
Trials, Far
Ubisoft.
Cry.
Yeah, well, Far Cry is part of the main big ones, so you don't have to worry about Far Cry. And we had Tom Henderson on, and he talked about Far Cry 7. And I think there was even some things about like a standalone Far Cry multiplayer game. So like, if you like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and Rainbow Six Siege, like nothing's probably going to change. In fact, it might even get more investment into those properties. But if you're fans of any of these other ones, or if you're worried that Ubisoft's only going to pump out sequels to this stuff, that might be an issue, Jez. I mean, if like this company is basically saying these are the future, are we gonna see any new IP pop up from this, or is it just gonna be, hey, you ready for another Assassin's Creed game? You ready for another monthly update for Rainbow Six? What about another thing for Far Cry spinoff? Right? Because like one of the things that that Ubisoft did so well, at least during the 360 gen, was a lot of their stuff was new IPs. You know, continuing into the Xbox One, Assassin's Creed new IP, Watch Dogs new IP, The Division new IP. You know, like Rainbow Six Siege was an existing franchise, but they really kind of like, I don't know, defined the live service shooter. Like, really, when you think about like what sort of defined it, it was Rainbow Six Siege in 2015. Like, there really wasn't one. So you have like all these new IPs that were really successful. You know, For Honor, but now it's like we're splitting them off, and it's like it's just going to be these big ones. So I sort of wonder if they're going to be more like, because Warner Brother Games kind of said the same thing. Like, we're focusing on Harry Potter, we're focusing on DC, and we're focusing on Mortal Kombat, and those are only things that they're going to make. And I sort of wonder if, like, with this new company, if we won't see new IPs from Assassin's Creed. Because we already know about the next Assassin's Creed game we're getting. It's like set during like the Salem Witch Trials or whatever. And I think Ubisoft Montreal's making it. You know,
Does that leak or was it announced?
I think no, it wasn't. I think it might have been announced, or maybe Tom Henderson leaked it. I don't exactly remember, but I think we've seen the image for it. And even Tom talked about, when he was on Xbox 2+1, the idea that, you know, Ubisoft is planning on releasing 10 Assassin's Creed games in the next 5 years. Are we going to see a similar thing for Far Cry, where it's like, all right, we got a bunch of Far Cry games ready to go? You know, I'm just, and if you're like, what about Splinter Cell? Where's my, you know, I guess then the question becomes, we saw the reports that maybe they were in discussions with EA and Microsoft about buying IPs, and clearly would be IPs that are still at the parent company. So I don't know how that works. So now the subsidiary of this is worth more money than the parent company. Subsidiary is worth more money than the parent company. So would they be willing to part with some of the IPs that aren't a part of this? Like, are they looking to shop Splinter Cell? Are they looking to shop Watch Dogs? But are they also like potentially willing to sell some of the teams? I don't know. I mean, what I can say, just from the, you know, kind of repeated what I said earlier, this is a W for Yves Gamon and his family. Absolutely. I don't know. Is it a W for gamers? That's yet to be seen. Because if all we get is just more Assassin's Creeds and more Far Cries and just no new IP in the future, well then, I guess it would be an L to some people. But if you're a big Assassin's Creed fan, it might be a W. I don't know. I mean, you're not the biggest fan of Ubisoft anyways, so I don't know if this really does anything for you. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm in two minds. I'm always in two minds about Ubisoft, where it's like, a lot of their games, like, I've enjoyed at times, like Black Flag. I really love Black Flag for some reason. And then I just dropped off the franchise for a long time. And then I really liked Far Cry Primal, you know. And I like the idea of Far Cry, but Far Cry 6 was, I like Far Cry 5 as well, but Far Cry 6 was so it's just mind numbing. It was like the same again, and whatever flat storytelling. I don't know. So, and obviously, like I'm rooting for the success of the teams and the people who work there, of course, because those are real people who just work really hard and deserve to have jobs and stuff like that. And a lot of it does just seem to be generally mismanagement from on behalf of Ubisoft. Um, you know, I'm sure people were laughing about the 2 hour long credits for Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah.
I saw people laughing about that, and it's like, well, maybe Ubisoft's just one of the studios that actually properly credits people, because I've seen that being a complaint in the industry too, where studios aren't properly giving credit to all the different people that worked on the game, all up, social media, marketing, voice actors, no matter how big or minor, all that kind of stuff. But it's sort of like what it does do is illustrate how difficult it has got to make a modern game compared to what it was like back in the day. When you're making like a 16-bit kind of game, you didn't need all this sort of stuff. When you're trying to cut through the social media zeitgeist, you didn't need a social media marketing team back then, or a meme expert and all this kind of stuff. And there's now a lot of new laws about games and how they're delivered, and what you can and do, how you can sell a product to youngsters and all that kind of stuff. So it's like all the complexities of modern game development and the post-pandemic era has seen a lot of studios close, a lot of game time hours shift away to other forms of media, and it's created this shift in the industry. And a lot of companies, creators even, and podcasts and websites and all this kind of stuff, like Game Informer shut down and recently got rebooted
Yeah,
as,
which was
a
kind of
rare
crazy, right?
success story there. Um, And also, we've seen GameStop. I was joking earlier about GameStop wants to be a crypto company now because no one wants to buy games at retail anymore. Like the whole industry is in this sort of weird upheaval right now. And so you can sort of look at it two ways with Ubisoft. You can look at it the selfish way, which is like, is this going to actually lead to better games for me? Are they going to actually manage the IP better? What is Tencent going to do? Are they going to give Rand the free to play Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell game that I always troll him about? Are they going to give us that now? You know, um, what's all this stuff going to look like? So that's the selfish part, but then there's like the empathetic part, which is like what's going to happen to all those staff who work on the games that aren't included in this subsidiary round, and
Yeah.
and then there's also like the analytical part, which is like, is this actually a good deal? Who's the winner here? Did Tencent get played
Tencent
or and all that
I
kind of stuff?
mean, even though Tencent had invested in Ubisoft, but now Tencent's got more. Like they keep on putting their hands in more pies, though. Now they have like
Yeah,
a bigger
and
chunk of it. So
it's weird because Tencent, like, too, they're faced with the same issues of shrinking audiences, people scrolling on TikTok instead of playing games, and spending less money than they did during the pandemic. And but costs have gone up, but wages haven't gone. Wages have gone up too, and but people are spending less because of consumer confidence and the state of the world. Blah 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 blah. All this macroeconomic stuff we've talked about before. So they're in a sort of weird spot too, and I think it's just symptomatic of upheaval in the game industry. Um, evolving to a new equilibrium, we should say, I suppose. Some studios will close, some studios will find ways out of closing, like Ubisoft has today, and other studios will transform into something else. Um, but at the end of the day, we don't know. No one's got a crystal ball. So we just have to wait and see. Mario187 said it was leaked as Assassin's Creed Hexe,
yeah, Assassin's Creed
which is
Hex. Mm-hmm.
German for witch.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a cool time period. The thing is, like, I don't want it to come anytime soon because I just played Shadows and did the open world for 60 hours, right? So, I want to take a little space between my next open world adventure. So hopefully, and there's usually a big gap between the big releases, right? So, well, actually, that's not necessarily true. I mean, I think Odyssey, when did Origins came out in 2017? Odyssey was 2018, Valhalla was 2020, and then Shadows is 2025. So I guess sometimes there isn't. But I didn't play Origins, I didn't play Valhalla, so I was kind of ready for the next Assassin's Creed. I loved Odyssey. Like, if I were to rank my favorite Assassin's Creed, still probably Assassin's Creed 2. And then I would say probably Odyssey is my favorite of the new Assassin's Creeds. But Shadows is in there. I don't know if it's like top 5, but I ended up quite enjoying my time with the game. But I still like, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Revelations. Black Flag was really good. I haven't played Syndicate, and I do want to play like Origins and Valhalla. Well, actually, I don't want to play Valhalla. Scratch that. I want to play Origins. I really don't have any desire to play Valhalla. But I don't know. Am I the only one? I remember back like when the Assassin's Creed games actually had the modern aspect to it, because there was like you're in the Animus, and then you came back out as Desmond. And there was like the whole modern storyline with Desmond. I actually really enjoyed that. Like, I enjoyed both storylines. I really was interested in what was going on, especially with Assassin's Creed, because I think Assassin's Creed 2 was a big jump over Assassin's Creed 1. And so it was one of those games that really kept my attention from the historical fiction aspect of the game and being an assassin, and then this modern day thing of what was going on there. So I kind of always liked it, but I don't know, it went off in a weird direction, and like the Templar modern day story in this game is basically non-existent. I mean, it's there for a couple minutes, but it's really a nothing burger.
I think as well, I think Watch Dogs in a way kind of undermined the modern storyline, because like the whole there was a mystery and intrigue about what the Templars were meant to be, because it tied to all that sort of New World Order conspiracy theory stuff that was, really prevalent at the time. It was really it was like the meme of that era, and it ended up amounting to not being anything, and I think in Watch Dogs, the Templars aren't even that powerful anymore, and there's some kind of new faction, and so like when you're dealing with like the past, and like Watch Dogs deals with the future, and like a lot of those plot threads have been kind of resolved. I remember I'm not the best at the lore of this universe, but I do feel like it undermined it a bit, So I think that pulled some of the even though like some people don't like the Animus stuff, and like the game adaptation newscast is saying he hated the Animus stuff, which is fine. But I do think there was like the overarching story tied all the disparate historical time periods together and gave it that sort of context. I can't remember the word now. There's a word where it's like it's I don't know. I can't even describe it. It's like when something makes it make sense within the lore of the universe or whatever. There's like a special word to describe that in fiction. And like, because I kind of feel like without that Animus stuff and without the Templar story, it feels almost arbitrary to sort of just all these time periods are selected for just basically just a random reason. Oh, it's the rule of cool rather than like being a narrative decision, I suppose. It's hard to put into words what I mean, but
I get it.
That ship has sailed, well and truly sailed anyway, which is fine.
Definitely. Got Daniel Lawson with Super Chat, says, we're all forgetting the Xbox OS coming to Windows under hypervisor is still possible? Isn't that
the issue, technologically speaking, yeah, it's well possible. And I think Microsoft already has that internally. but the issue is the licensing. Like, um, the developers may not agree to their games running on those platforms. They might want to sell them twice, that kind of stuff. There's always that kind of discussion with regards to this about Microsoft can do it, but are they allowed to do it, I suppose. Obviously they do it for their own games. Everything's sort of developed with the modern, I don't know what they call it these days, the modern Windows developer stuff, where it's like everything just works across Xbox. It used to be called UWP, but it's called something else now, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't know, but all those legacy ERA games, Microsoft doesn't have a license to just emulate them on Windows, sadly. But maybe it's solvable. Maybe that's a solvable problem,
Maybe.
We'll have to wait and see.
James Wiseau with the super chat says, for the homies, peace. Thank you very much for the support. We appreciate it. So yeah, the Ubisoft stuff, the Assassin's Creed.
Cheers, James.
It's interesting because I saw a lot of goalposts shift with the Assassin's Creed stuff, because beforehand people were talking about how the game wasn't going to be any good and how nobody was going to play it, and then the game ended up being about as good as any other Assassin's Creed that's released recently. It actually seemed like it sold well, judging from what Ubisoft says, and I know people are like, you can't trust them, they're lying, but now, like, the goalpost is,
isn't it a crime to lie if you're a publicly traded entity?
I mean, I don't know. Enron, remember Enron? Company that sold nothing and eventually got caught. But my point is that, like, people were talking about the game, nobody was going to play the game, and the game was going to be shit. And then a bunch of people played the game, and the game was actually good. And now people are like, well, see, it didn't save Ubisoft, but I don't think anybody ever said it was going to save Ubisoft, because one game ain't going to save a company,
Yeah, that ship is sailed.
So, yeah, like, it wasn't going to save Ubisoft.
Monster Hunter is often credited as saving Capcom, but Capcom was a much smaller company than Ubisoft in terms of footfall.
Yeah. I mean, Ubisoft has what, like,
in terms of headcount?
Well, the thing is, like, yeah, Ubisoft has 18,000 employees or some ridiculous number.
How many does Capcom have?
I don't know, but I would imagine not 18,000, and that's part of the reason why, they're, like, really a bloated company. But you for the amount of games they make, like 18,000, like, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge amount.
Yeah.
Huge amount.
Like, the fact that the Assassin's Creed Shadows credits are 2 hours long, I mean, that's a lot of people working on that game. We got Phase 23, BKNY, in the super chat says, I think AC Shadows is 5 years too late. Ghost of Tsushima did the Ubisoft formula better. I'm enjoying it, though. Story is lackluster. Gameplay is okay. I'm 20 hours in, would give it a 7 out of 10. Ubisoft needs to change up their formula. Yeah, some people are going
to... Maybe we get to play Ghost of Tsushima on the Xbox next couple of years.
Yeah, well... I do think... Yeah, that's the other thing we talked about with Ubisoft is, like, they were, at one point during the 360 gen, like, my favorite publisher, because everything was new they were putting out, and then eventually everybody copied them, but then a lot of people copied them and actually did their formula better. So, yeah, I could see a lot of people who really getting burned out on the Ubisoft formula.
But when I was playing Atomfall earlier today, I started thinking about that. I was like, what if Far Cry was more like this? Rather than the sort of, going through the motions kind of thing. Like, I have to sit there and think about, okay, I've got a note that says I need to go in this direction. But, like, I'm looking out over the valley. There's shitloads of enemies there. So I cut through that way, and they say, oh, there's a bush there. I could cut through that way. Whereas, like, with Assassin's Creed, it's just like there's an arrow to follow. Go towards that arrow, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Far Cry could use.
I was gonna say that I did enjoy Ghost of Tsushima more than I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Shadows. So
I need to play that game.
But there are some things I think Assassin's Creed Shadows does better. But there are some things Ghost of Tsushima does better.
Maybe.
Well, I think story and presentation, I think Ghost does better. I think the gameplay for the samurai.
I saw a lot of people say Shadows has the best environmental design graphically
Well, I
ever.
was gonna say I think the world. I think the world of Assassin's Creed is Shadows is better than Ghost of Tsushima. I think the presentation is better in Ghost. I think the gameplay is better in Ghost, but not by much. Ghost is also a shorter experience too, which I think, you know, is they all still have the Ubisoft like, oh, follow, like you're following a waypoint or the wind, and there's these like checklist things you have to do in both. So it's just a matter of how much you like them. Like Ghost of Tsushima has the bamboo stuff you cut down. Assassin's Creed has like the kata you do, or the meditation stuff. So they both have like those, and it's like which ones do you like more? But I would say I personally like Ghost of Tsushima just a little bit more than I like Assassin's Creed Shadows, but not like that much more. So, Jez, another thing that happened with the Nintendo Direct, I thought this was interesting because I didn't think this would happen, but it looked like Nintendo was resurrecting the old Xbox One digital game sharing strategy, huh? Did you see
this? I did see this.
So
the digital cartridge system.
Yeah, so they've announced this thing called virtual game cards for digital games on Switch. And it's a new easy way to share digital games between two Switch consoles. So basically, in the future, all games purchased on the Nintendo Switch digitally will be loaded onto the system as a virtual game card, which is kind of cool. These cards can be loaded and ejected onto a second Nintendo Switch under the same account using an internet connection. And the two Switches only need to be linked locally once, and an internet connection is only needed during the load and eject phases. The new virtual game cards also provide enhanced features to family group managers. Virtual game cards can be lent out to a Nintendo account's family group members, but only for up to 2 weeks, after which they will return to the original account's Switch. And the Nintendo account can only share one game at a time with one specific family group member, and the Switches also need to be locally linked once before swapping. They'll be added in a system update in late April. I guess also though you can like, I guess choose not to do this and keep the old way, or something. I think I did see Patrick Klepek talk about this. But what do you think about this? The way Nintendo is approaching this, because this is certainly different than what Microsoft, Xbox, and PlayStation are doing. With their stuff.
I think it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's super progressive, and it's kind of like we're moving towards a digital world, but gaming is still this kind of social thing, right? So no company except for Steam has really given us a very pro-consumer way of dealing with this right now. Like right now on Xbox and PlayStation, you do the account sharing thing, right? It's a sort of unofficial kind of way to share that kind of stuff. And I think this system is obviously it's got more restrictions than what the full-blown account sharing has, at least in some cases. If you're sharing with like if you're sharing with like one person, just being able to share your entire account all the time 24/7, obviously that's gives you a lot more freedom. But usually that's only one person. Like, what if you've got a household with like a bunch of kids, right? And really, I think Nintendo has really thought about the downfalls of how digital impacts families who are trying a game. They're always trying to think about that kind of stuff, more so than maybe the other platform holders. So I think it's cool, and I would like to see. That's the other question, when you look at what Microsoft has, what Microsoft's doing with Steam potentially. Obviously we don't know for sure if they're doing it, but come on, they're pretty much doing it. But Steam lets you share your entire game library all the time with 10 people.
Yeah, but only one. But only like one like the. So if like there's one copy, you can only share it out to one person. But if there's 2 copies, then you can share out 2 copies, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are still restrictions, but it's like it's basically what the Xbox One original vision
Well, the
was,
thing
you
is,
know. But on
it's funny because they never explain what their vision was. That's the problem. And they had plenty of opportunities to explain how it was going to work, and they never did. And in fact, anytime you got Phil Harrison or you got Don Matrick or you had Phil or somebody else talking about the DRM strategy and the family sharing stuff, they all had different answers. So is
yeah,
it no surprise? You know, you talk about mixed messaging. That announcement back in May to like the E3 stuff. That's like the greatest messaging of all time. Like nobody had the same answer. I remember being like really invested in that and like trying to figure out what was going on. It was like, oh, Phil Harrison said this, but it was like, oh, but Mark Warren said this. Well,
well, dude,
Don
that
Matrick said this, and
whole
it was all completely different information. It was like
yeah,
nobody really knew what was going on, you know?
well, dude, that whole situation started my career. So I
Mm.
remember that Boogie guy, a YouTuber,
Yeah,
he put out a
Boogie
video.
2998. Yeah, yeah. Major Nelson
Yeah,
went to his house or whatever.
yeah, I saw the video, and he put out this whole video that was crammed with misinformation about it, and everyone was eating it up, hook, line, and sinker. And I was like, I gotta writing something about this, and just writing a guide on that it's actually a good thing, you know, and that yeah, poor mom and pop stores which don't even exist anymore. You know, this was clearly something that was designed for the future, and it would be a good thing. Like once it was given a little bit of time to play out. But then all these clickbaiters like him and others, you know, they ran away with it for clicks, and now like we're in 2025, and more people are realizing, oh, this was actually like a really good thing. And now Steam's done it. It's great that Steam has done it. You know, everyone loves it now. Steam's done it. You know, but Microsoft wanted to do this back then. There's and there's plenty of people who oftentimes talk about how they want that sort of platform to come back. Now, it's probably not ever going to come back in that form because at the end of the day, publishers want to sell you the game twice. You
Yeah.
know, they want you to, and clearly enough people do buy the games twice in order to justify preventing that from happening, um, for better or worse. But I do think like the tide will gradually shift because, like I say, Steam has allowed a much more generous sharing platform that PlayStation and Xbox have today. And Rand, if Steam is on the next Xbox, then isn't Microsoft gonna have to match um, the Steam feature set at least to some degree?
I mean, I suppose they would have to. But
Because
even when you even look at the Nintendo thing, though, the one thing that kind of maybe people wouldn't like it is like this has to be done locally. So it seems like it really is set up for like people in the same household. Because let's be honest, like when game sharing on Xbox, most of the time you're not game sharing with someone in your house. You know, you're game sharing with a buddy somewhere else, unless you have a kid and then you're game sharing. You know, you're sharing with them. So it's like, you know, this is I think for like parents who have multiple Switches in their house and they're trying to figure out like what their kids should play rather than Steam, which is like, oh, you can invite 10 family members here and then you can share the games in between. It's not, but the family members don't need to be local. It could be anywhere, right? Where this really does seem to be localized because they mentioned a whole bunch of times about how the consoles have to be shared. And I think you have to like do it over a local wireless network. So it's not like I get a Nintendo Switch 2 and you get a Nintendo Switch 2 and you buy Metroid Prime 4 and then you can loan it to me for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? That couldn't happen in this scenario. Right?
mm,
So
yeah,
it is limited in that manner. But I mean, it's
it's
also
limited, but I still like that they're doing it.
no,
You know,
it's I think it's a forward-looking thing and I'm not sure, you know, I mean, you could say Xbox is like, well, if Steam's on there and Steam has this like family sharing thing or group sharing thing, like would they have to copy that? Maybe, maybe not. I think they more or less have to copy like the fact that multiplayer is free completely for everything because like you know it's like well on the same device I can access Steam and play Call of Duty with not having to pay for multiplayer, but on the other same device, like if I want to buy it through Xbox, I have to pay for it. So like that is more I think something that they would have to get rid of rather than matching, the sharing features that Steam has.
Mm.
But no, I mean, I don't think anybody really expected this. I mean, good on Nintendo for doing it. And they Nintendo-fy it, right? Like, oh, game cartridges that you load and eject, so they make it gamey in a way. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I remember. Do you remember people always asked Xbox like with digital games, like it'd be cool if the digital library looked like game cartridges
mm-hmm.
to give us that
Or like the
nostalgia.
box arts,
Nintendo,
you know?
yeah, the box art, like Nintendo gets that and appreciates that, whereas like Xbox tends to just see it as like, oh, this is a product, this is a service, this is just what we're incidentally doing to make money. You know, the soul of Xbox is something that I feel like people at Xbox have to fight the corporate layer of Microsoft to honor. Whereas like Nintendo is like all up. That's what we do. That's what we do here. You know, and I do like that about Nintendo, even though I don't like their games, and because I'm a grown man, I don't like their games.
Oh, that like that.
Oh shit! But
Down Taku
but
is upset right now.
yeah, I do appreciate that they do that shit. I think both PlayStation and um I do think both PlayStation and Xbox could do more there. Like even Steam lets you customize like the way your library looks um in the Steam overlay and all that shit. So yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. And next week is the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. So get to see the system, maybe first
The
party games,
leaked system
maybe
ever.
third party stuff. I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna see, but maybe we'll talk about some of it. I don't think I guess rumors are that pre-orders start that day. Are you gonna be up waiting to pre-order this thing for the Switch 2 next week? You
Nah,
don't think so?
nah,
You're not gonna get the FOMO and watch the direct and be like, oh man, that looks really good. Did you see
nah.
Metroid Prime 4?
Yeah, I did. If there was ever a reason I get one, it's probably for that. But do I need another system in my life just for one game? Not really.
I'm just saying. Another thing that I mean, we've talked about
Are
this
you gonna get one?
maybe eventually one day. I don't know if I'm gonna run out and get one on day one because, like I have my Xbox and my PlayStation, and I only really turn on my PlayStation when there's an exclusive to play, and I'm not really into like PlayStation or Nintendo games. So like, yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is a game that interests me quite a bit, but it's like, am I gonna really spend the money for just that game? Like, I don't really care about Mario or Zelda or Pokemon or any of the other stuff. So I'm not well, I mean, I don't even know if I'll watch it live. I might just like catch the trailers for it later, you know? So we'll see. But Christopher Dring had put out a new report because he talked to a bunch of people about GTA 6. Three like bigger AAA publishers that are all like, yeah, we have all these plans. We don't want to be anywhere near that. I don't know if did you read this? Andrew Wilson, I guess, said that the publisher would be willing to shift the Battlefield release in order to avoid GTA 6. He said that according to a senior executive from a different publisher, he says, even without GTA, it's immensely difficult to find free time for new games to shine. Time is the real scarcity for us, not money. It's tough out there. And another boss over at an unnamed AAA publisher said that we don't want to launch just before or just after the game. If it arrives in late October, that means you either have to launch early, which a lot of people seem to be doing with the recent glut of summer release dates, or go later, putting you up against the Black Friday sales. And if we move out of 2025, what if Rockstar does too? Will we have to push our game up, or will we have to delay further? It's proven to be very stressful. And another thing I didn't really think of is like the live service games. And Christopher Dring said he talked to somebody who is working in one of the top 10 live service games. And that guy says,
World of Warcraft.
GTA 6 is basically a huge meteor and we will stay clear of the blast zone. We will nudge our updates back or forward 3 weeks to avoid it. Of course, the problem is everyone is going to do the same. So 3 to 4 weeks before or after GTA 6, you're going to get a load of live service games dropping content and what they believe will be the safe zone. And then another executive from a major AAA publisher says, we don't want to be anywhere near GTA 6. So
it is an interesting, different landscape these days, where it's like people form habits around games more so than ever. So like GTA 6, if it's good, is going to form a habit that people are going to, presumably GTA 6 Online launches with it too, right? Or at least maybe a month after, like with Red Dead. We don't know for sure, but that's going to be habit forming for a lot of people. And that game's going to have a ridiculously long tail. It's going to make people addicted, and people are going to play that and nothing else for weeks and weeks and weeks. Like back in the day when games were just smaller, shorter, didn't have online components. Like San Andreas back in the day, it had an end, to some degree. Those sandbox games, even back then, like maybe they had a longer tail than usual, but they wouldn't like vacuum all the air out of the room like GTA 6 is gonna do, you know. Or like Fortnite has done. Like Fortnite has created like a chilling effect over the whole industry since it launched, where the playtime hours and the habits that game has created amongst people of a certain age group has vacuumed up a lot of the playtime hours that would have gone towards variety games, in different times. So it is going to be interesting to see like how all that plays out, how it all shakes out, and I'm going to jinx it, Rand.
Okay.
What if GTA 6 is a disaster? What if it's like Cyberpunk at launch and it just doesn't work? GTA Online's all buggy, and could that happen?
I mean, you
Is
never
that
know. I
possible?
mean, Dan Houser did leave, so I think this is the first GTA without him at the helm.
Is it going to be? Is it overhyped?
I mean,
is it going to be $100? All these questions.
It probably is overhyped. I mean, you can't get any more hype than GTA right now. I mean, people are going crazy over any morsel of it, and whenever the next trailer drops, it's probably going to be like the most watched video game trailer ever, just like the first one was. So I mean, but it has that reputation for a reason. And yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the game, what is it, 12 years if it releases this year, or not 13? So people are expecting a lot from it, and for some, it won't live up to those expectations and the hype, for sure. For others, it will. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people will be disappointed. I'm sure others will be in love. Yeah, the price point is going to be interesting, because if there's any game that could get away with raising the price on a game, it's really this one and no other. And I'll die on that hill. Like, I know there's the reports that are like, oh, well, if we hope they raise their price, because then that can make other publishers raise their price. Like, no. Like, see, a lot of these games, they're not worth $100. Some of them aren't even worth like the $70 they try to sell them to you. So like, this idea that other publishers are like, well, GTA was $100, we have to be $100. No, they're the only ones who can do it. The rest of you, if you try to do that, you're only really going to hurt your business. I'm sorry. That's just kind of how it is. So I don't really see anybody, if they do raise their price, to follow them. I mean, maybe there'd be somebody like, oh, well, they did it, so ours is $100 too. Like, no, your game's going to fail if that's the case.
What game could get away with it?
Outside of GTA?
Outside of GTA? Any?
I don't think any could. I don't think there's any game out there that could go for 100.
What if Cyberpunk 2 is like GTA tier in terms of complexity and stuff?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Cyberpunk
we're talking about Cyberpunk, which probably isn't going to come until 2030. So game prices might
Probably
already
30?
Well, I mean, okay, if Witcher 4 isn't coming till the earliest 2027,
Oh, right,
when and there they said like I think Cyberpunk's in pre-production, Witcher's in full production, so yeah, it won't come until after that. So you're looking in sometime in probably the early 2030s for Cyberpunk 2. Maybe game prices by that point are already naturally $100 or close to $100.
No, that's
But
cursed,
but I'm like saying right now, the jump from 70 to 30 is, that's a big jump. And people complained about the jump from 60 to 70. You don't think they complain about a jump from 70 to 100? But no,
they will.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Although I do wonder sometimes because when you look at like the most pre-order, like the pre-order like right now, I've seen a lot of websites, right? Xbox is dominating the PlayStation Store because of Indiana Jones and Forza Horizon. But did you notice which ones were always listed first? It was the $100 version of Indiana Jones that was number one, followed up by the regular version at number 2, and then the $100 version of Forza Horizon 5, followed up by the regular version of Forza Horizon 5. So
Are people just paying more? I mean, man, I paid a lot of money for Diablo. I bought the Ultimate Edition, and then I bought a PC version because I bought it twice.
Well, in this scenario,
I will do that for games I'm.
The $100 versions, each of these $100 versions come with 5-day early access. I think they also come with the expansions for free. So you're actually getting, you're getting more content for your money. Like you get to play it early and you get more stuff. But if that was the base price, if it was just Forza Horizon 5's $100, and then it was like $150 for all the extra stuff, I sort of wonder how well that would do, right? Because I think people sell it to themselves because they can be like with Starfield, I'm getting the expansion for free or included with this, plus I get to play this early. So they can talk to themselves and being like, well, actually, I was already going to spend $70. I can spend another $30. And it's no surprise that when these games release, these early editions always come out on a Thursday. So basically people have the weekend. And they might be like, oh, it's the weekend, it's Friday. And then you see a lot of your friends playing the game and you want to be part of the conversation. So you're like, I'll spend the money. And it's like, oh, it's fine. I get the DLC and I get the stuff with it. I just wonder how...
we get played. Did we get played, Rand?
Did we get played? Well, the market spoke.
Did we get played by the
market spoke, and almost every game does it now. Even stuff like the most recent. What was the game that just came out? The Souls-like, the Kazan game, the one that you really liked, or the demo. That had like an edition that came with 2 days early access. It almost seems like every game that comes out now has some form of early access, whether it's 2 days or and I can't figure out the reasons why. Like, Forza Horizon was 5 days. Indiana Jones, I think, was 5 days. South of Midnight's 5 days. But Doom's 2. I don't understand, like...
Ooh.
Yeah, the Doom Ultimate Edition gives you 2 days early access. Death Stranding 2, Digital Edition, the one that's like $10 more, gives you 48 hours early access. So I don't understand why some give you 5 and some just give you 2. I don't understand, like... why just these why 5 for some and why 2 for the other, but it's always like 5 or 2. It's never really like 3 or 4. It's either 5 or it's 2. It's a weird thing. I don't know, but it's like they want to sell you more, but they don't want to give people that much early footage or early access to it. But it definitely seems like the market spoke. People voted with their wallets, and that just seems to going to be, something that happens for virtually every game. It's not. It's like every game. It's like even like the non-big ones, they still have stuff like this. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder how it would be if the base price was $100 and it was like, no, you just get the game for $100. Would people start to balk at that? Because you look at the PlayStation Store and people are like, "Yep, $100 for Indiana Jones, and $100 for Forza Horizon 5. Sign me up." What do you think about that? What do you think about those games dominating the PlayStation Store as people, because that's what Insider Gaming's article was titled, and I think that's even what like The Verge's article was sort of titled.
It's interesting though, because they've got these slots on the store, but there was another analytics firm which I've skimmed over earlier, and I'm gonna
Sam
read it
Tolbert
properly.
posted it. New data indicates that Xbox games being ported to PlayStation are quite the mixed bag.
Yeah, so this analytics firm is known for its accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
So they put out an analysis which suggests that Hi-Fi Rush sold just over 100,000 copies, and the Grounded sold 1 million copies or something like that.
No, I don't think that's no, I don't think so, Jazz. I think you're wrong on that.
Was it 1 million?
So he says here,
Sea of Thieves that sold 1 million. I think Sea of Thieves.
It says
sold 1 million,
Sea of Thieves sold 1.8 million copies. Obsidian is Grounded in second place, sold roughly 432,000 copies.
Yeah, that was it. I couldn't remember.
Tango's Hi-Fi Rush sold 137,000 copies, and Obsidian's Pentiment sold just 14,000 copies. Age of Mythology Retold, which I think just released on PlayStation, earlier this month, I think, apparently has sold 41,000 copies. Because the game was only ported a few weeks ago, as opposed to the other games that have been available on PlayStation 5 for about a year. So, I mean, I don't know. That kind of falls to what my expectations were. I think when we talked about this, I was like, nobody's going to buy Pentiment, and Hi-Fi Rush isn't going to do very well, but Sea of Thieves is going to do really well, and Grounded, I think, I mean, I don't know. That falls in line into what I thought was going to happen. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the question is like, is it worth it? You know, because the amount of brand damage that Xbox for this, what isn't like, I don't know. I wouldn't describe it as a pivotal amount of sales for any of them. Obviously, Forza's going to do a lot better, I would have thought.
Right.
Stuff like
so
Halo
you don't think an extra 1.8 or let's just say 2 million extra sales of Sea of Thieves is good enough?
Well, is it worth? I don't know. I don't have the spreadsheet. I don't have the data. Is it worth the brand damage to Xbox?
But I mean, how did this firm even get the data? Are we even to assume that this data is correct?
Idea. The firm's supposedly known for its accuracy, so you know, depends if you. I don't know what their methodology is, but they are used by the industry in general. So your mileage may vary. And take that as what you will, you know.
No, I'm just trying to figure out like what's their methodology here. How do they know?
I have no idea.
So
I have no idea. Well, I have no idea how like Cicana knows or any of those firms know, but you know, Microsoft gets reports from companies like this, and you know, investors do and stuff like that when they're deciding how they're gonna, you know, invest, I suppose. So, I suppose it's like it's either accurate data or it's just the best data that's available. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also kind of what happens when you release late ports to something. It's like the ports that come out at really later, they don't sell as well, which is why I think they'll move in towards day one stuff for a lot of things like Doom or Outer Worlds 2 and potentially beyond that. Because usually if you wait a year or 2 years, and in some cases like Sea of Thieves is what? That was 5 years? But Sea of Thieves I think is such a unique thing that it kind of, I think it's like, what's the saying? It's the exception that proves the rule, really. Because you look at like something like Hi-Fi Rush, and I feel like if Hi-Fi Rush was there day one, it would have done exceedingly better than the 100,000 copies it supposedly sold here a year later.
Yeah. No, I get that.
You know, Pentiment, I think, like I always said to you, like, is it even worth porting Pentiment to these systems? Like, nobody bought it before. Like, why would? And that we've had the discussion about Hellblade 2, because Hellblade 2, it didn't really seem really made a splash, and nobody really cared about it when it came out. So it's like, is it even worth the the time and energy and resources you would have to do to make the port, to port it to this other system where, it's not, I don't think it's going to do well. Is it worth?
I think like that's what do you remember I wrote in my article about the exclusives. I said any exclusives that Xbox has moving forward will be incidental.
Right.
On the basis of, like with Hellblade, for example, is it even worth bothering doing the port, or should they just move on to the next thing?
I don't know, but that's to say, like
is it going to be worth porting South of Midnight?
Is it going to be worth porting South of Midnight, or is it going to be worth porting Avowed? I don't know.
Or Towerborn. Towerborn's second party, but I just mean like these smaller kind of games that they're coming later. They're going to be competing with things like Grand Theft Auto. Do you just not just keep them as Game Pass exclusives, But even then, it's like, even if you do keep them exclusive, they're not really helping Xbox's narratives, because they're not out here saying like, oh, these games are exclusive, We don't know what games are going to be exclusive, and Microsoft itself doesn't seem to know in some cases. That's why I said, like, they should just do a program. In my mind, they should have a program where it's like Netflix, like Xbox Original, which are guaranteed exclusives, and then we'd know, But I don't know. It's just rambling, I suppose. It's incidental. Doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Yeah, Fuzzy Tomato in chat says ports are not expensive, easy money. I mean, there's that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't know how much the cost is, but
I think one of the issues is not necessarily cost, but also time. Because it's like, if I'm a dev working on the next game, like maybe I can get a port studio to do it, like, I don't know, 11 or something. But if I don't have that resource, do I want to spend budget or man hours doing a port when I've got another game to make? I've got other milestones to hit. Maybe Microsoft's just letting studios decide for themselves and their own business, if they are their own division. It's like, yeah, we want to port this so we can have this extra money. Spreadsheet says it'll do this, Incidentals, man.
Yeah, we have a Nerds and Other Legends member for 13 months. No doubt GTA 6 will be great, but is it overhyped? It's been a decade since the last one. In that vacuum, black hole games have taken over. I mean, we sort of talked about that already, but don't forget, GTA is one of those black hole games. And it'll most likely probably replace GTA 5. Games, though. So,
but that's the thing. Like, will the hardcore GTA Online players want to give up everything they've earned in GTA 5 to move to the next one? Kind of why there's never been a Warcraft 2 or a Minecraft 2, and
Yeah, but I think you'd be right if like GTA 6 came out 2 or 3 years after GTA 5, where people would be like, "Well, wait a minute," but it's literally been, if it comes out this year, 12 years. And just think of years. Think of the new missions, think of the new heists, think of the new things you could buy in cars and stuff. New, like
new.
Yeah, so I think I'm not saying that people won't continue to play GTA 5, but I think the majority of those people still playing GTA 5 are going to move on to GTA 6 pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're probably hyped.
So like you talk about the black hole games have taken over, but you have a black hole game here that's going to take over the black hole game that was GTA 5. So
yeah.
Trying to, what else we got here? Oh, the new Xbox Game Hubs, which I think you made a video about, yeah?
Yeah, I did.
Insider
I pulled out
thing?
my YouTube skills.
Yeah.
Little quick video.
How does it feel to have to press A twice to launch your game?
Yeah.
That was the big takeaway for me, because it's like you can press start on the games themselves and you can go to the Game Hub, which kind of gives you the same information that this new thing is giving you. So I know you can. I know the thing is you can turn it off, right? You can basically go into your system settings and be like, I only want to press A once to get into my game. I don't want to have to see this stuff. So what was your impressions of the game hubs?
I mean, I think it's important that these exist because it sort of aligns Xbox's interface with the expectations that Steam sets for developers. As in, like, there's a page dedicated to this game where developers can be like, okay, here's information about the game. You know, developers on Steam often communicate updates, patches, bugs, and communicate with their audience through these systems, right? So on the one hand, I was kind of like, this is really cool. But then I did see people complaining like, oh, it's now an extra click, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose the obvious compromise for me would be have a launch the game hub for the regular audience. And then for power users like us, have X launch straight into the game, you know? I mean, that's kind of the obvious one for me. And because then you've got like the best of both worlds, right? But in the sort of PC Xboxy kind of future, the assumption is that like we're gonna have a system that has mods, you know, all that kind of extra stuff. So you kind of need a page where all of that information can live, I feel like. Um and that's what this is about, I suppose. Um but you, Rand, are just kind of upset that you have to press an extra button.
Well, no,
Right?
no. I mean, if there wasn't a the thing to turn it off, I would question the point of it. I'd be like, why are you making me press A twice, or the button twice on this?
Mm.
Like, I don't need to see this information. Like, I'm pressing A on this thing because I want to play the game, not because I want to bring up the game hub and see it. And I sort of wonder if they're testing it out because maybe people don't go to the game hub that often. I don't even know if a lot of people even know the game hubs exist. Because how many people actually like press the start button on the game and then scroll down the game hub and then see like, oh, here's a trailer, and here's where I can manage the file, and here's where I can go to the store. And I get it, because when you think about, okay, remember when we talked about the dashboard change? Remember? Well, they didn't really change the look, but they added all the stuff underneath it, right? Where they added like the stuff in Game Pass, and then like, and it felt more like a mandate that came down from top, where it was like, we need more eyes on these things. That's what, like, when I watched Tom Warren's video and I watched yours, the thing that I noticed right away is when they pressed A on it and it went to the hub, what's the thing that's like right there in your face? Microtransactions. So when I first saw that, my first thought was, maybe cynically to a certain extent, be like, oh, well, how many people press A on Fortnite? How many people press A on Call of Duty? How many people press A on all these other live service games that make their living off of selling content, but then maybe don't buy stuff? And now that they press A, it's boom, there's a little thing that shows the things that you can buy. Now, that may be a cynical take, but it was the first thing I saw, because there's this like a list of DLC.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That is annoying as a customer, but I think for the health of Xbox, if they can sell more stuff, it gives Microsoft data to be able to go to Capcom and say, hey, look at all this shit that people buy. Why don't you put Monster Hunter Stories on the system? You know, so while I get that, it's kind of like, yeah, it's annoying seeing the DLC, blah, 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 blah. These are things that help Xbox get more content, right? No? Am I going crazy? Is that a crazy
I don't know.
take?
I don't know how like selling more DLC of Apex Legends helps you get Monster Hunter Stories. I don't think those two are related, Jez.
I think they are related.
I don't think they're related one bit, and I think you're huffing copium if you think, and hopium if you think they are.
Doesn't it create a healthier ecosystem if people buy more stuff?
I mean,
No?
sure,
No?
but no. Okay, Sure, yes, it does, but that also is not going to solve the problem of your specific example of Monster Hunter Stories, or maybe some of those other things. At least in my opinion, I don't know. I feel like that's
well. Okay. Put it this way then: when you open the game hub for Monster Hunter Wilds, maybe Capcom sells more skins for Monster Hunter. And then they're like, oh, we could put Monster Hunter Stories.
Do they sell skins for Monster Hunter? Do they sell stuff for Monster Hunter Wilds?
There's a lot of DLC for Monster Hunter.
Okay.
So it's not like, for example, if you want to customize your character again, you have to pay a microtransaction.
Ah.
You want to change your beard to a different beard? You gotta buy a character edit token, which
you
is
gotta cough up the cash, huh? Okay.
You gotta cough up the cash, man. So maybe, Capcom sees that data and is like, you know what? People on Xbox do spend a lot of money. But what if we did put Monster Hunter Stories on this shit? We could slap it right there in the feed, So I think things that are good for developers generally might be good for us in terms of getting more content. But maybe I'm naive, and maybe it's just all bad all the time, and we should just try.
No, I mean, you bring up a good counterpoint, and I just don't like the idea of like if I'm pressing the button on the game, it should launch the game. That's it. Now, if the way you designed your user interface is no longer how you want to do it because you want to see more information, well then I don't know. I think you might need to redesign the home screen then. Because, like, once you click on something, it's like you're telling it, I want to launch this thing. Not be like, oh, I want to be taken to this other screen to see more stuff about it, only to have to press the button again. And I'm not, like, I get it. You can turn it off, which is exactly what I would do. Is I would just turn it off anyways. But to me, this seems like you need a complete redesign of the dashboard at that point. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's what we get in next gen, bro.
Because, like, PlayStation sort of has this. Like, it has the game, but when you hover over the game, it has all this extra information that flows down. And that you could see potential stuff that they do. So they do it in a more clever way, right? Because when you press the button, it launches, but when you hover over it, then all the information appears, and like the different music plays. I know you don't play on PlayStation, so you don't know what I'm talking about, but
I know it does that.
So I'm just saying, like, if you wanted it to be more like that, you got to come up with a better way than to be like, press the button to see this stuff and then press it again to play. So it sounds like you really need to if that's the true path you want to walk, you got to redesign the dashboard then to kind of fit in your mold. And honestly, you probably should redesign the dashboard. Right? It's old.
I'm bored of the dashboard. It's old.
Yeah, give us something new.
Yeah, so like with Discord, give us something new. We're bored of it, right? Right, Rand. You wanted the new Discord layout too, right? Right.
Are you throwing this back in my face? Are you? Who was bored of the new Discord layout? The Discord layout was functional and it looked fine and everything worked.
Yeah, but you want a new Xbox dashboard.
Well, no, we're saying the way they want it to be because they want to show you more things, but the way they currently designed it, it's not possible. So now they're changing how. Well, you press the button and it brings. Yeah. And I get the idea of like complaining about you got to press the button twice. It's very similar to when you would load up your Xbox, and I remember Tom Warren complaining about this, and other people have been seeing like. They did it most recently for Assassin's Creed Shadows, where like a full page ad would be like Assassin's Creed is available. And yeah, it was just one button press to get rid of it. But, I mean, nobody really likes ads. You know, especially like...
I love ads.
Here's the thing. I own Assassin's Creed Shadows. So why is the game telling me to buy it when I already have it? I think that's maybe an issue for... It's like, it's serving me an ad for something I already own. So, like, it should just look somehow and say, I have this game. Don't show ad. You know what I mean? It's... That stuff is just like, I don't know. But even still, people are you really complaining about one button press and you're back to the thing? And for some people, it's not about the button press. It's about the principle. right? And the same way here. But as long as I can turn it off, I'm cool with it. Because if I want to, I'm just saying, it's a nice little discussion because I think they do want to show you more things. For the casual user who's just always playing Fortnite, they want to show them like, hey, you can buy this stuff. But they've created this dashboard in a way where it's not possible other than like pressing the button to get to a different screen. So it needs to be redesigned completely. But do they have the time and resources to actually do that? That's the question.
It'll probably come with the next console.
Yeah, we're gonna say that, but watch the next console look exactly the same as this one with the dashboard and everything.
I don't think it can. Like, if they're doing a Windows kind of thing, I don't think it can look the same. But we'll see.
P Lump with the super chat says, "Never mind. Who am I? Play my theme song. What's your theme song? I don't know." Anyways, Jez, you want to? I know it's getting late for you because we started an hour later. Let's get to some Patreon questions, shall we?
Let's do it.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Keep in mind, anybody can join patreon.com/XB2 for the Patreon stuff.
It's free.
It's free. Anybody can join, but you can also, you can sign up and support what we do here. The question and answer thread is up, so we will definitely be reading everybody's comments here. But thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this episode. 86% off, 2 years for our listeners. Links in the description for those that want it, as well as, we are still sponsored by 4XP Gaming. So links in the description of that. Use code XB2 if you want to get 15% off with the drinks there. So let's read what the as Jez would say, the Xbox 2 universe has to say here, shall we?
Yeah. Xbox 2 universe.
Which, by the way, Jez, I don't know if you just saw, but SmackDown just ended, and it was confirmed.
Don't spoil.
CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns main eventing night 1.
Oh, everyone.
So CM Punk gets his main event. Finally.
Ugh.
Anyways, we got Silas, who says, "Hey guys, I was thinking about the possibility of playing Steam games on the next Xbox console. With consoles built around a bespoke system on a chip, how would I know if a Steam game I purchased be compatible with the Xbox hardware? With PC games, devs publish minimum and recommended hardware specs. Without having a traditional GPU and CPU, how would I know other than trial and error? I love that Steam has the Steam Deck verified program for the deck, but I can't see Xbox putting the time and resources into something like that." Very interesting question, because I've thought the same as well. What's your answer, Jez?
Exactly what I was going to say is that they'd have some kind of Xbox verified program. I don't know why you would think Xbox wouldn't do that. Like, why wouldn't they? If they're building a system like that where compatibility becomes an issue, why wouldn't they build a system that offers transparency about what's compatible and what isn't? To some degree, they already do this on the Xbox PC app. Like, on the Xbox PC app, when you open a game, it'll say, like, this game should run on this system. Like, it'll use your system, it'll scan your system settings and what hardware you've got, and then it'll, like, let you know if the game meets the minimum requirements. I think there are technological ways to solve that. So I wouldn't worry too much about that kind of thing.
Yeah. I was thinking the same, because it's like,
the
Steam Deck doesn't play everything, but maybe the console can play more or whatever the specs are for that. But some of the specs for these games that can come out are pretty hefty. So I guess it's one of those things, Silas. We're just gonna have to wait and see, one, for this thing to actually happen, and then to see how it's implemented and all that stuff that goes along. So this is why some of the times when I mentioned earlier about putting the cart before the horse, it's kind of one of those things, because we don't even know if it's going to happen, but we're still talking about it like it will, or like it's a done deal.
Microsoft's going to have to work with Valve to some degree to solve some of these gaps. But we'll see what happens.
Cbot says, "Hi both. Is there any talk of Xbox doing a partner preview in the first half of the year? The last few years, they've held ones in March and October." I think there is, because I had heard it was delayed. I remember hearing in February that the March partner preview got delayed. But Will there be one in April? I don't know. I mean, because at some point you're getting pretty close to your own June showcase. I mean, I guess you could still have like a May partner preview and then have your June thing. But I haven't heard anything. I mean, I guess I could ask some of the people that I would know that maybe would know, but I haven't heard anything recently about anything happening in April or May. But I don't know. Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything about partner preview, but like you, there are people I can ask and find out if that's something that's gonna happen.
Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, maybe they wanted to wait until after the Switch 2. I don't know. Does that make sense? I don't know if it really does.
Maybe. I don't know. There's always something.
All right. So next question we have is from iMike0. Hey, Rand and Jez. In the month of March, I finally done it. After 20 years, I'm now part of the Man with the Million Club. All right. Yes. I planned on unlocking the 1 million with the Perfect Dark Zeros. It was the first game I got an achievement on in 2005, but Mullet Majak was so damn fun, I got carried away and unlocked my millionth on it. My question is, what genre has your favorite achievement list? Roguelites are my pick because they're either cumulative or you trying new things throughout your multiple quick playthroughs. Hence why Mullet Majak was the one for the million. Have a great D. Well, congrats on your million. That's pretty awesome. And
that's a good question.
I've heard a lot
that's a Rand question.
I've heard a lot of great things about Mullet Majak. I downloaded it the other day. I'm probably going to play it this upcoming week. Very excited to check it out. What genre has my favorite achievements? Maybe action adventure games? I don't know. See, the thing is, I'm not much of a roguelike. I get why roguelites maybe would appeal to that because you have these multiple runs and different things you can do, so you can have achievements and different sort of things you could tie to it. But I'm not really the biggest fan of that genre, anyways. So I don't know, maybe action adventure games like the Tomb Raiders or something, or the Gears games. Because I don't know, just off the top of my head, maybe it would be those. Because I'm not much of like a fighter. I don't really play a lot of fighting games, even though I'll enjoy playing Mortal Kombat. You know, shooters. Shooters can be fun, but I don't know, the achievement lists don't really stand out very much. I'll just go with action adventure games, I guess. Pat Rock says, sorry, Rand. Splinter Cell is not an answer, nor is Metroidvania-style Prince of Persia. With that out of the way, what IP from Ubisoft would you like Xbox to take over and give to the initiative to work on after Perfect Dark is out? How ironic would it be if they bought Tom Clancy rights and made a Call of Duty Tom Clancy? Based it on the SEAL Team 6 about the assassination of Osama bin Laden. That's my idea. What is yours? Hey, why are you putting these parameters on me? Like, no, Rand, it can't be Splinter Cell. You know, like a stealth game wouldn't be perfect to give to the initiative who's making like a stealth game in Perfect Dark, right? Or, you know, oh, I love my Prince of Persia. So what would it be? I don't know. What about you, Jez?
Oh, man.
Because well, see the thing, would they be able to do a Tom Clancy thing? Because like Rainbow Six was their shooter, and they're keeping that. So how would you essentially make Call of Duty Tom Clancy? But let me think.
I honestly don't know. I mean,
I got one.
As well. I mean, they haven't kind of improved themselves.
Here we go.
Yet.
Give Rayman to Double Fine.
Huh. Like create a 3D Rayman, maybe?
Like, maybe have it in the Psychonauts 2 thing, or have it, you know, like Rayman Legends. Because I think that could work. That's something that came to my head. Considering I'm not allowed to talk about Prince of Persia or Splinter Cell, so it'd be like Rayman paired with Double Fine. I think could be an interesting combination. I was thinking Watch Dogs, but I don't know who you would give that to, though.
I'm kind of thinking like maybe instead of IP, I'd like them to absorb some of their teams. Like, could the Anno team work on StarCraft 3, for example? Something like that. I feel like Microsoft has a lot of IP that doesn't have teams to work on it, like Killer Instinct and stuff like that. So I'm more thinking about it in that direction, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess it'd be Rayman. Logan Meyer says, "Hey guys, hope all is well. Was wondering if either of you had heard back from Xbox or found any additional information regarding backwards compatibility batch for Activision titles after Jazz's article went out. Really hope they do something. It'd be really nice goodwill gesture. Cheers."
Yeah, I haven't heard a thing. I think like
Well,
it's kind of like
you
what.
did hear from somebody when we were talking about this live that, like, what did he say? It's just work, just stuff to get it done. But I don't know if that was in regards to back compat, like doing the 360 Activision games, or just adding the existing Activision games to Game Pass. I'm not sure what what that
Yeah,
response
it's.
was to you though.
I think it was about Game Pass specifically, bringing the Activision games to Game Pass. I don't know if it was necessarily about backwards compatibility. Um, but it's I don't have any hard information about whether they'll do something like that, even as a goodwill gesture. I mean, it's kind of what we talked about earlier. It's like a lot of their developer bandwidth right now, and probably their legal bandwidth, is going towards figuring out what this next hybrid Xbox PC kind of thing looks like. Um, you know, there's a ton of complexity there. They're making a big bet on the future, and unfortunately, that means that things they could do with the current Xbox Series generation, I suppose, is just kind of in a holding pattern until we get some trickle down benefits from whatever they do with the next gen. I mean, obviously, I presume a lot of people here are planning to buy next gen system, right? I would presume that, right? Um, and we don't know what that looks like. We don't know what format it's going to take. We don't know if that will lead to more backwards compatible games. Maybe because it's Windows based, they can just be like, oh well, we'll just shift the Windows version there, or whatever. And then we get the benefits of that effort in that direction. But I haven't heard anything concrete. But I'll keep digging. Always digging.
You know how what I feel? I feel like backwards compatibility programs done and good. It's
Yeah, we know what you think.
I don't I don't think we'll get any new batches. So
Yeah.
that's and that's not based on anything, Logan. I just sort of feel like if they were gonna do it, maybe it'd be done by now. And I feel like the people that were gonna do it are on a different project that's more important to their future timeline or future projects. So I think it's maybe partially because the deal took so long, and they had to move on to a different project, and they just can't get any. I don't know. That's at least my line of thinking. Love to be wrong, but I don't. We'll see. James Moore says, "You guys often say that you don't see the point of generative AI for gamers, but what about a generative AI that can scale in-game assets dynamically to suit the performance of the hardware? Especially if we're looking at a backward compatible future for Xbox, some models and textures might not look good on much higher resolutions, so the AI could recreate them and add details within context."
I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, if I've got a more powerful system, maybe that can make like more detailed resolution textures, right? I did notice when I was playing Atomfall earlier, I was looking at I entered a building and there was kind of like a sort of post thing on the wall with like lots of letterboxes. And it was like so low resolution, the texture was. It was like everything, maybe it was a bug, but like everything else around it was like sharper than that specific 3D model. There are things that I think artificial intelligence can have a hand in with regards to that, but people won't see it as AI generative assets when it's things like upscaling or machine learning or super resolution. People don't see that as AI. I think when people are thinking about generative AI, they're thinking about things like the the recent trailer that Ark put out, which is just sort of like the whole thing's made with AI. Like everything's AI. There's no human touch, and it just has this sort of plastic look about it. I think you can kind of tell when something's made with AI. But yeah, it's like Daniel Lawson in chat says, people are so scared of AI in gaming. It's like you have to sort of. There are things that AI can do to make development pipelines better, but it has to work with the humans, I think. There has to be a balance between the two. Um, or even more so the human side. I think it has to be human led and then like use AI to do the boring stuff. Like I said to you before, Rand, like, do we need a human to make grass textures? I mean, do we? Not necessarily. I'd rather humans focused on, character models, things like that. I don't know.
We'll see. We have John, who says, "Hey, Rand and Jez, with rumored plans to release an Xbox Second House additional app stores like Steam, Epic, and GOG, do you think we could see crossplay and cross-save carried across titles on Steam, Epic, or GOG? So if you own the title or have access via Game Pass, that your save would carry across?" Well, I think Xbox games already do that, right? I think Indiana Jones was one of the first ones, and I think Avowed did that as well, where your Xbox save carried across to your Steam stuff. So I think some of that works like in that manner. Are you saying like if this happened, could you see it a potential where like, oh, like this random indie game could work? I don't know. Would that require a lot of effort? I guess it all comes down to how much does it cost to get that feature implemented. Yes, he says, so if you own the title, of access via Game Pass, that your save would carry across. I mean, I think that would be really cool. You download a game on Game Pass on the Xbox store, like Atomfall, and then boom, you buy the game on the Steam side, but you can pick up right where you left off. What do you think, Jez? Is that something that you could realistically expect, or is it really just going to be probably just for Xbox games, like Xbox first party stuff?
There are some games that do this already, like with their own solution.
Mm-hmm.
Like CD Projekt Red's got their cloud saves system.
Yeah, and I think Ubisoft does that, right?
Yeah, Baldur's Gate has it as well. Even some indie games have it. Like I think Prodeus has it. Weirdly, I wouldn't have expected that, but yeah. But there are a bunch of games that have like their own solution of cloud saves. But it would be nice if Steam and Xbox partnered up to add some kind of universal cloud save system, for people who are switching between the different platforms. But again, it's just one of them. We just have to wait and see.
I think it would be cool if something like that did happen eventually. We got good old Collinwood, who says, "Hello, Rand and Jez. This is a follow-up question to the one I asked last week, which is how Microsoft should present the games that will be going to the Switch 2. Now, Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming suggested that there would be a three-phased approach to releasing games on the Switch 2 this year. The first would be first-party games, then later in the year, third-party games, and then finally games for the holidays. Also this week, Minecraft released news on important updates coming to the game. The Spring to Life update, the Vibrant Visuals graphics update, and the Happy Gas. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that, Jez. ZX finally got it done. The Vibrant Visuals is here.
Yeah. Shout out to ZX. He personally worked on that for me.
Yeah, the super duper graphics packs that was announced in 2017 basically been rebranded, but it's finally coming. Vibrant Visuals.
Yeah. And it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And also they added a bunch of new mobs, the Happy Ghast. I don't like the Happy Ghast. I think it kind of ruins the mystique of the Ghast. I don't want my Ghast to be happy. I want him to be evil and depressed. But I don't know.
He says, so he ends by saying, seeing how popular Minecraft is on the Switch and the new features coincidentally being announced at the same time as the Switch 2 Direct, do you think that Minecraft will be a launch title for the Switch 2, including these new features?
Oh, definitely. Minecraft will be there day one on the Switch too.
I'm gonna say no.
No?
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
Why?
I'm just gonna go the opposite of you.
Based on...
Well, I mean, because Tom Anderson's reporting says that it's a three-phase approach, with the first games releasing on the Switch being first-party games. And I know, like, you could say Minecraft is treated as that, but it's not. And plus, it's back compat. So maybe Minecraft 2 comes in the holidays.
Minecraft 2?
Or Minecraft, a Minecraft Switch 2 version, I guess. A native version for Switch 2. Because remember, I think...
surely you need to have Minecraft on the Switch day one.
It is. I mean, no, but it's already there. It's back compat. It'll be back compat.
Oh,
right?
You mean like a native version?
Like a native version of... So I think he's talking about a native version of Minecraft for the Switch 2 that runs vibrant visuals and all these upgrades. So I mean, because you already you already know Minecraft's going to be there day one because people will be able to play it through backwards compatibility. Now, I
think vibrant visuals will be available, but it'll just be like a pack you can download. So like maybe they just don't enable it on the previous Switch if the previous Switch can't run it. Maybe the previous Switch can run it. You know, it's not like... I don't think Minecraft's the most graphically intensive game in the universe, even with these vibrant visuals. Maybe the original Switch itself can run it. I don't know if Microsoft's announced anything with regards to platform support, but it's just Bedrock Edition, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. But maybe the Switch can't.
Maybe the original. Yeah, I'm gonna. Maybe the original Switch. I think the original Switch probably could run it, or some version of it. But we'll see. You know, maybe I'll dig and find out some information.
We got Rave Damos says, "Gentlemen, I've been thinking about Steam and Xbox from a regulatory perspective. Is Microsoft putting its games on PlayStation preemptive, given that PlayStation could consider pulling its games from Steam on Xbox devices? I mean, PlayStation games are already on Steam, like with the Asus ROG Ally, and later this year, those same games are going to be playable on the Xbox-branded handheld from Asus. Now, considering there's barely any difference between an Asus-made Xbox handheld and one directly from Microsoft, what real grounds would Sony have to block PlayStation games from Steam just because the device has Xbox branding? Honestly, I don't think they have much of a case. Happy Friday." What do you think? I mean, I don't think he's wrong, but I don't know if it's a regulatory thing.
I think we've talked about this before, Rand, where we've speculated that some of Xbox's moves in this space are to preempt regulatory moves in the European Union. Like, Europe's just ruled that Apple has to open up its platforms to third-party stores, for example. And like maybe we've speculated that Microsoft thinks the European Union might force all platforms to open up to third-party stores, right? And in that universe, Microsoft will be ahead of the curve, and they'll already have established systems to make that happen, blah, 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 blah. But I do think, like, you know, if PlayStation wanted to argue to Valve, we need a per device block on these games, on this brand of Windows hardware, of Xbox, basically. You know, could it become a court case? And in that universe where it is a court case, you know, Microsoft's under discovery, Microsoft will have a reams of evidence to suggest it doesn't preclude PlayStation or exclude PlayStation from this stuff. Like, does PlayStation try and see Steam in breach of contract in some way? You know, by putting Steam onto Xbox, you know? So, I don't know. This is purely speculative. But it's like I've said to people, like, don't run around doing victory laps over PlayStation games coming to Xbox, because I think there's all kinds of shenanigans that can happen. Like with the European Union had like all these experts, these legislators, and these bureaucrats tell Apple that they needed to open up their platform to other storefronts, and And Apple found a way around it, you know? So you never know at the end of the day what can happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they try to block it off of like the I don't think the handheld is any. I don't think there's any fear of that happening. I think it would be specifically whatever the console is, even though it's going to be a PC. I think that's the one that they'd be worried about. I don't think they would care about some handheld that's probably not even going to really shift any noticeable units, really. So, that's my thoughts on that. Let's see if we have any more submitted since I. Oh, we got Pat Rock. He says Sony is mainly a hardware company and Microsoft mainly a software company, but why is Microsoft better at making hardware and Sony better at making software?
That's a good point. That is a strange one. I can't believe like how hideous the PS5 is. I don't know what they were thinking when they put that system together, and that they came at those weird wings and were like, yes, that's it. Looks great. Like, how did they go from like PS2 to that? I don't know. But visuals are subjective, right? It is kind of cool how far Microsoft's come with hardware. I was writing about it today. Like we've come from the 360 to the Xbox Series X, which is quiet and cool, and I mean like temperature wise cool. It runs cool for a system as powerful as it is, and also extremely quietly. I think that's we take that for granted now in 2025, how quiet these systems can be. Whereas like if you remember the PS4 Pro or the PS4 itself sounded like a jet engine taking off. Or the original Xbox One, I mean, sounded like a jet engine sometimes. Well, actually, I think the original Xbox One was quite quiet as well. But anyway, Microsoft's gotten very good at hardware. We won't talk about the Elite Controller Series 2, but they've gotten very good at hardware. But I agree on the software front. Like even beyond like Xbox, because I don't know if you saw, Rand, but Skype is shut down, or it's shutting down in May, I think, something like that.
Okay.
So I've been all the users on Skype have been forced over to Microsoft Teams for consumer. I've been using that app a little bit, for an article that I'm writing soon. I think it's the worst messaging app I've ever used in my entire life.
Skype?
It's no, Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
For consumer, it's absolute garbage. It's pure shit. And I have no idea why this thing even exists. It's awful. You can't send files, you can't send videos. It's not encrypted. It's showing me conversations from Skype that are like 10 years old. I can't delete any of those conversations. I've got message requests from people I haven't spoke to in 10 years. It's shocking how bad it is. And I'm sitting there thinking, Microsoft's the company that made its name on software. Like, how is this even a thing, But yeah, I mean, that's just it, Their software sucks. And I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon.
And I think with that, we've come to the end of the show. P-Lump says the first 6 or 10 seconds of Hollywood Hogan. Yeah, that's a great theme song if you wanted to play that. But anyways, yeah, we've come to the end of the show. It's the start of the weekend. Hope everybody has a great rest of Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We should be back
Monday.
We should be doing something on Tuesday, right? Are you free on Tuesday?
Yeah, yes.
So hopefully
we're doing some on Tuesday.
Hopefully, yeah, we can. We'll do something on Tuesday for the Patreon. So keep your eye on the emails for that. Thank you everyone for being here. If you're listening to this later on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere else, we appreciate you just as much as anybody who's here watching on YouTube live. Anybody who super chatted or just was talking it up in the chat. You guys mean the world to me and Jez. We wouldn't do this without you guys. So, yeah, don't forget to check out the sponsors for xpgaming.com. Links in the description. Use code XB2 for 15% off. And Surfshark, get 86% off 2 years, which is, almost makes it free in a way, because that is a hefty discount. Links in the description for that as well. And we'll be back next week talking about whatever we feel like. And until then, keep it gaming, everyone. Later.
Rock and roll.